Good evening, all. Hope you're doing well. I've got a special guest with me this evening, the king of the dwarves themselves, who has just said verbatim, there's thousands of runes that I don't know what they do because they're crap, so this is going to be interesting. So as you can see, I've got the best expert, only the best for you. We're going to talk some dwarves, we're going to talk some runes. How you doing, Richy?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How is everybody at home? I hope you've all had a great day. So we are going to be looking at all of the runes. Like he did say a second ago, I don't actually know what a lot of them do because you only end up taking about 4 or 5, right, in your entire army. And those are the ones that get like baked in your brain, aren't they? I think.
That is basically it. Yeah, I love how just having two YouTubers with their own channel on. I've done the intro, and you're like, "Cool, it's the start of a video. I've got to do my own intro." You just go
Yes.
straight into the standard. We are broken, fundamentally broken people.
That is the problem.
Yeah, we got Jackie here. How you doing, Jackie? Hope you're doing well. We've got a long list, but I think it's not going to take us too long because if I just scroll down so you can see how far it goes, it's not too bad. There's like 63, I think, in the across the Grand Army book and then the Arcane Journal as well. I was like, oh, we don't even have to talk about the tattoos because they're not runes. And then I looked and it's like, oh, these are like runic tattoos or something. So, all right, great.
Yeah.
We'll do that as well then, I guess. Ginger Steve is here. Good to have you, Ginger Steve. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, you're right, Steve, mate.
How's your evening going? It's a bit slow this evening. Off to a slow start. Maybe I didn't put my keywords in. I should probably just double check that. But while we're doing it, I would. So, if you're not a dwarf player, you probably don't. Well, that's just fucking rude. Well, I'm hurt. I'm not even going to address that. Right. So, for those of you who are unaware, dwarven runes, because the way they work is very different to normal magic items. Can you give us a run through on how they work? Because you can combine them, you can do loads of stuff with them.
Yeah, so basically, we've got our own kind of artifact, basically. So all of the other armies, they've got this like specific artifact that they can use, and then they also get the ones in their books. Dwarves have their own special ones, which can be combined on items. So like a banner, for instance, you could take 3 different runes on weapons as well. So you can get like the rune of smiting, and then you could add a couple of extra attacks on the rune of fury if you've got the points for that. But there are some caveats to that as well. So you've got the rule of 3, so you can never have more than 3. Then you've got the rule of form as well, which I can't remember what that does. What does that do? Oh yeah, sorry. So the rule of just never use it because it's basically you can't put an engineering rune on like a weapon rune or anything like that. Then you've got the rule of pride, which means that you can never have the same combination of runes on the same thing. So if a hero has, say, the Rune of Fury and the Rune of Fury on one weapon, you can't take another hero that's got the same 2 runes, which means that you can make some really nice and really fun and also quite narrative as well mixtures in your lists. Obviously, if you're running more competitive, then you can just try and make the thing that's absolutely the stonkiest, but you can make some really nice narrative characters with that as well. But what that lets you do is that you can combine armor runes, talismanic runes, and also some really, really good like combat runes. So you can make a really tanky and really killy like dwarf heroes, and you can also put some really nice effects onto the banners. And I think you can just get this level of tech buffs in a dwarf army that you can't do in any other army outside of like magic spells, basically.
Good summary. Yeah, you've got a real good level of granularity, which is quite fun to have. I do enjoy the rune system. I really like dwarves. I want to play dwarves. It's just now it doesn't feel like the time for me to do so. Firstly, you're playing them, so like, what am I going to do? Just play the same list as you? That feels pretty dull. But also, obviously, infantry is not in the greatest spot. When we get to the point where having hordes of T4 infantry with a good armor save is oppressive, that's when I'm going to be hopping on that dwarf bandwagon, which will be hard. It's not much of a step up.
Well, we're pretty short, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you're below me, because as we all know, you are shorter than me. If anyone's seen pictures of the pair of us, you are the shorter of the two.
I am.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I guess we can just go straight into it. So let's just sort of clarify what the tiers mean here. So I'd say S tier, that is, it's going in every list. Like if you're taking something that can take this, you're putting it in. The only reason you wouldn't take it is if for some reason you aren't taking that. Like if it's the best engineering rune, but you're not taking a war machine. You're like, oh, okay, fair enough. It can still go in S, but maybe I don't want to take a war machine because the way my army is listed. A tier is very good. No one's going to look at you twice if you take them. Like, this is sort of, not everything's going to be like an auto take, but you're looking at these and going, this is really good. I should probably try and fit this in my list. B tier, still solid. These are the sort of more filler ones that you might or put together for a combo. C tier is like, well, it exists, but I wouldn't waste my points in it. And then F tier is actively harms you for taking it. A bad effect or like no effect for 40 points. You're just playing with 40 points less than it's never going to come up. Do you agree with those?
What you're saying is that F basically goes in the book. Yeah.
There we go. That's a grudgeon. Yes, that's very good. That's a grudgeon. So we're just going to change that to the grudgeon tier. Very nice. All right. Well, let's start off then, and we'll alternate. As you're the guest, I'll let you start. If you want to read out what the rune does, and then give us your rating of it, your opinion on it, and I'll see if I agree, and then we'll swap over.
Yeah, no problem. Right, you're gonna pick one.
Yeah, just go top to bottom, mate. So if you start at the top of the weapons and go down.
Yeah, sounds good. Right, so probably the best one in my opinion is the Rune of Smiting. Now, the Rune of Smiting gives you D6 damage on your attacks. This is a naughty little rune. It is a master rune though, so you can't combine it with any other master runes, but it is very, very good. If you're taking this in the Royal Clans, where you get that extra juicy 25 points of runic allotment, that suddenly means that Dwarf King can bang out dragons. Obviously, unfortunately, the Dirty Knife Ears do have some open amulets that you've got to smash through first, but once you can start landing those hits, D6 damage is very, very strong.
Yeah, that sounds solid to me. And Ginger Steve has a good point. The thing about the runes is you don't compare it to a great weapon; you add it to the great weapon. That's just great, isn't it? It makes your great weapons great. So where would you put this master rune?
So this is one of my ones that instantly goes in S. Like any Royal Clans list that doesn't have this in just isn't competitive. Like this thing is the only real defense that Dwarven armies have against dragons, and it really makes people think twice. Like, especially when you've got like a runesmith in the unit, so you've got the extra armor bane in there as well. So if you roll a 6, suddenly you're AP 5 with D6 damage. Like that thing's scary, unless you roll like me and just roll once. But
yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Huge thanks to that rat bastard who's suggested that C tier is rune for improvement, which I think is a fantastic idea. So that's going straight in. And also, I did see you. I was in the middle of talking, but good morning, Solar Warden. Good morning from Australia. Hopefully you're having a little bit nicer weather than us. It's a little bit drab over here, even with my studio lights on. But yeah,
well, we've got flooding again here, so
great. You love to see it, eh? Big
fan. I know, right?
So the Master Rune of Smiting goes straight to S tier. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Obviously you're the dwarf expert here, so I'm going to lean on your judgment more than I might do in some of the other videos. Is there any time that you take this outside of the Royal Host list, or is it basically just Royal Host it's worth doing?
No, so you could take this in a X-Force and a Grand Army list, really. So if you're running maybe like the Ranger line spam, for instance, I would probably put this on a Thane. So you put him on a Thane on Shield Bearers, and then you can combine that with, I would probably go Rune of Gromril, because you can still afford that. You just can't afford the Rune of Preservation. And then you try and make a really tanky hero that literally just hits back. So in those kind of lists, you're having, I don't know, you're like 30, 40, 50 rangers, and you're going to try and fill that with loads of different heroes that provide different roles. So you would be getting your engineers in there, your sappers in there for like the rerolls. You'd be getting so all of your just different kind of buffs off. Like you're getting your BSB in there as well to be able to get the better ward save and stuff like that. And then you just kind of create loads of heroes in there that can take challenges if they need to. And then this guy is your real damage hitter, basically. So if you get so a nice little tactic with this guy as well, like as long as you've got enough room in the unit, you can kind of bait out a flank charge, and then this guy can just make way through and slap into what he's going to. So if you've got, say, a gigantic spawn, then this guy is what you want to hit into that, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it helps as well that you're not limited to, because obviously it's a huge point of your runic item allowance in terms of points, but you can take shield bearers to give you loads more wounds. You can combo it with a BSB that gives the entire unit a 5-up ward save. So you can go outside of that unit or that character for defensive buffs, which really help turbocharge it, which is nice. So, yeah, perfect stuff. Evening to Adolf. Good evening, Existence, as well. Good to have you. Casper says Thane only has a 75 points allowance. Maybe you mean King in a Grand Army. I'm assuming that's what you were referring to.
Yeah. Sorry, King and Grand Army. But it's definitely worth taking on a Thane in an X-Force list if you can. Because obviously you don't have much just kind of like combat damage output, really. I know obviously you're going to have those really big, long units of great weapons.
Yeah.
But just coming from personal experience, like we know that doesn't down dragons. Somebody did the math on it. I can't remember what it was, but it was like hundreds of attacks to be able to kill a dragon with a trip save. So if you can survive the attacks even just getting one support attack in with this, it's D6 damage can really, really help.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Cool. So then we've got the Master Rune of Skelf Blackhammer. And this is 65 points. And when you roll to wound, you always wound on a 2+, regardless of toughness. So I'm just going to say straight away, is this rune for improvement, or is it maybe grudging? You're paying 65 points to wound on a 2. You know what base toughness, base strength the king has? It's strength 5, right? +2 for a great weapon, strength 7.
So
he's only strength 8.
No, so he's only strength 4, unfortunately. Dwarf got done. Yeah, he's only strength 4. Definitely in a grudging. Like you're never going to take it. Like if you're going to use those points, you're going to give him D6 damage, because if you're probably using the Rune of Smiting to do damage, you're probably taking that in a Royal Clans list. So you're hoping that you follow up or you get a charge over 3, and then you're probably wounding a dragon on 3s anyway.
Yeah. So just to play devil's advocate here, what if I wanted to go for a tanky build and I was like, I'm going to put this on a hand weapon and then I'll always wound on 2s and I'll do something while I can run a shield? No place for that.
No, I just don't think so. I think if you're doing that points investment, you're going to take something more offensive than that, I think. But remember, he's only got 4 attacks base as well. So 4 attacks that wound on 2s that are only AP 1.
It's not ideal. You could give it a Rune of Fury as well, and you could get a 5th bad attack. That'd be good. Going to be interesting to see what we have to say about hesitation when we get to that one. Yeah, I think you might have strong opinions on the runes for the banners, but yes, we're starting to pick up. If everyone who is watching hasn't already, could give the video a like. It would really help. Seems to be off to a slow start. The algorithm hasn't picked us up yet, so that would definitely help give us a boost to get seen.
That pesky algorithm.
Oh yeah, love it or hate it. Mostly hate it. Perfect. All right, so we're just going to go straight into grudging. So I think that's setting the scene. We're just going to be quite harsh with how we're treating these, and I'm here for it. Perfect. So next up, we've got you with the Master Rune of Alric the Mad.
So the Master Rune of Alric the Mad is a really, really interesting one. So basically, you do not get armor saves against it. Now, if you're taking this on a Thane or a King, doesn't really do too much. Like you can get 4 attacks through, whatever. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to be enough to win your combat. But if you have a look at the Doom Seekers that are given this, the fact that rune ability can go onto the impact hits as well, and then you give that the Rune of Endless Battle as well, so you're getting the extra attacks. Suddenly, absolutely amazing.
That is interesting, actually. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's a really fun little combo, actually. You've just got to try and make sure that you get the charges off, because it is quite a high points investment. But if you're just kind of like hiding behind something and popping out, that can be really, really good. Remember as well, you are quite high strength, so you're going to be wounding a lot of stuff on 3s or even 2s in some cases. So giving stuff no armor save, like this on a Doom Seeker is a night killer, like absolute night killer.
Yeah, no, I can see that. That is solid. I hadn't considered putting that on a Doom Seeker, actually. That's a solid shout. Yeah, perfect. So where do you reckon? Probably up in A tier?
Yeah, I think like outside of using it on a Doom Seeker, you're never ever going to use it. So I think for me, keeps it out of S tier. Like on a Doom Seeker, you could argue for S, but I think because you're not using it on anything else, probably on an A, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Perfect. All right, so we've got it up there, and going to go through these a little bit more quickly than some of the magic items because there are 63 of these. But the Master Rune of Dragon Slaying, 35 points. When you wound an enemy whose troop type is Behemoth, not monster, so you don't even get it against the smaller monsters, which is a weird thing to have. Always wound on a 2+ regardless of toughness. So this is just the Master Rune of Scalf Blackhammer, but 35 points cheaper, which is fine. It's fine. Like, I can't see much point in this, but it's better than, like, it's 30 points better. It's almost half the cost. So for me, that's got room for improvement, I would say. Because, like, maybe you combo this with, I don't know, more attacks. Like, you could juice this up in some way.
I think they really did us dirty with this, because I think if this wasn't a Master Rune, I think it could make its way into a lot of lists.
Sure.
But the fact that it is just absolutely terrible. They've just done us dirty with it, to be perfectly honest, which is a nightmare.
That's a classic for dwarves, being done dirty. Grumble, 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 or at least feeling like it. That's fair. We haven't done a monstrous cav tier list yet. It will be coming at some point. Maybe in 2 weeks' time. Maybe that's the one that I'll have to do next. But yeah, so I reckon C tier or room for grudging, but at least you could combo it with something if you wanted to just be cute, I guess. Or like, there's no scope to put this on a Doomseeker. That doesn't feel worthwhile. Because why would you go into a dragon? You never charge them. Anyway.
Stuff with Slayer's always stuff with the Slayer. Like, you wound on a 4 anyway, so
yeah, that's true.
Like, it doesn't matter, does it?
Just make it better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe on a Dragon Slayer, maybe.
Yeah.
To get those D3 damage for it, or was it 2 damage on a Dragon Slayer? I can't remember. But they do extra damage going into Behemoths. But maybe, like, I don't know. I just think it's worth it. It's not worth it, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair. Perfect. So that takes you to the Master Rune of Flight.
Oh, straight in the grudging. Like, I've never even seen anyone use this personally.
Yeah.
Like, it's just terrible. So basically it's like one attack that is 12-inch range, and it's your strength, and it's just magical attacks, move and shoot, and quick shot. So it's basically a strength 4 magic missile when you get charged. Like, it's terrible, so bad.
Yeah, it doesn't really do much. I was just looking. I thought that it basically gave your melee weapon a ranged attack, but it doesn't. It just means that your hand weapon also becomes a ranged weapon. And I think does it lose its melee ability? No, you could buff up a hand weapon, but there's just not really any reason to ever buff up a hand weapon as opposed to a great weapon, right? That feels
no. I mean, there could be like some crazy combo that we're all missing, but I don't think so.
Sure, especially if you wanted to have like a good stand and shoot threat, for example, you could do that in way better ways, which we will get onto towards the end of the video.
For sure.
Because we're going to go through all the Grand Army stuff, and then we'll go through the Arcane Journal stuff at the end. But yeah, that's interesting. Cool. So straight into the grudging tier. How about the Master Rune of Swiftness? 25 points. The wielder of a weapon inscribed with the Master Rune of Swiftness gains strikes first. That's kind of fun, but I just don't see ever wanting to put it in. I'd rather just make my character tanky, take the hits, and then hit back way harder. That feels way more dwarfish as well.
So there is a fun little combo that you can do with this, actually. So if you do put it on a great weapon, for instance, if you're not playing into T6 monsters, this is loads better. So if you're playing into like cavalry lists or any kind of like normal army that isn't so much like elves, because obviously they're going to be really high initiative anyway. But if you put a king with this in a unit of hammerers and with the Banner of Confusion with hesitation as well, suddenly your king striking at initiative 4, which is actually quite good.
Sure. Tudolf says it's good. It's another Slayer rune. I'd rather just have the Slayer hit harder, though, right? That feels to me like I'd rather just have them do more damage. Especially if we're talking the Doom. Is it Doom Seekers, the newest ones? I think that's the name of them. I always get the names confused. They've got impact hits anyway, so you definitely want to be getting the charge, and as difficult as that is for a dwarf.
I don't know. They're quite quick though. They've got like pseudo swift stride, haven't they? So they're pretty nippy.
Movement 3. They're quite quick though. So For me, I think it's a B tier. Like, I could see that you might want to put it on. I just don't feel like it makes the cut for me. But if you sneak it in, I'd be like, okay, cool. Your dwarf's going to hit me before I get to hit you. Fair enough.
It no, just put it in, just put it in C. Like it needs to go in room for improvement. Like there's not many lists that are going to be taking this.
Tordolf is insistent though. You can run it as Hero Slayer as well. You can throw a lot of killing blow attacks from standing 7 as easily possible. So strikes first, killing blow. I mean, that is something, and it's only 25 points. Obviously, you've got to buy the killing blow as well, but
Have we got killing blow? Don't have killing blow.
No, I think he's saying on the hero level ones, right? You buy the killing blow. This is one of those where I'm like, it's been such a long time since I've looked at the fucking Dragon Seekers or whatever they're called because they're just terrible.
No, we've got so outside of Ungrim, we've got no access to monster killing blow or killing blow or anything.
Well, you've got killing blow on the Slayer datasheet, I think is what he's saying.
Oh,
so if you buy one of the worst Slayers, you could then combo it with strikes first, so they get the extra attacks in the killing blow, and just like be in a unit. I guess it's not this meta, but if we got to more infantry down the line, that becomes
yeah. Obviously the Slayers are a kind of like they're a different kettle of fish, aren't they? Really, like I really rate the Dragon Slayers. I think they're really good. It's just stuff is so quick to be able to like hit into them. Like they just never really do too much, unfortunately. You've got to be so careful when you're playing a full Slayer army. Like you've just got to kind of run up the board and then give them certain heroes so they charge into one, and then you can angle charges up in, and it's a very techie way to play actually. So everyone that's running just full Slayers is an absolute hero.
Perfect. All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to leave it there for now, but let's move on to the next one. What we got after that?
Nacho Bod Sprinters. Love it. So we've got the Rune of Breaking. So any magical weapon that's carried by the enemy that suffers 1 or more wounds is destroyed for the remainder of the game. Now, this is a really interesting one because I haven't ever used this competitively. Like, I can see it being really good. The problem for me is the fact it's a Master Rune. If this wasn't a Master Rune, it'd be amazing. Like, if you're just destroying those Ogre Blades and then you're kind of slapping down heroes. The problem that we have in this meta, though, is it's not the Ogre Blades, it's not the guys on top of the dragons that are doing the work, it's the dragons with the stomps. That's the problem, in my opinion. So I would say breaking is probably room for improvement. I reckon if you're playing against a Chaos faction they don't have any dragons, so they're just running like all on Cav and stuff, then potentially you could that could be quite good. But yeah, like I think in the upper meta, I don't think this has a place unless it wasn't a Master Rune. Like that's the problem. It's the fact it's a Master Rune.
Existence says, how many times are we going to say if this wasn't a Master Rune? Well, how many Master Runes are there?
Every single one.
No. With the exception of one. There's one that we're like, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to argue. All right, so you want me to move it up from Grudgeon to Rune for Improvement?
Yeah, for sure.
I just hate those, like, if you do an unsaved wound, if you get through all of the defenses, you get to break something. It's like, great. Cool. All right, that's fine, though. So moving on, and we're now down to the cheaper ones that are easier to combo. We've got the Rune of Parrying, and this is enemy models attacking you are at -1 to hit in combat. It's 35 points, which is interesting. You can't have I missed one? No, I've just got that in the wrong order. That's fine. Yeah, so you can't take multiple of these. It's not one of the extremely common runes, so you're only ever going to be at -1 to hit, but you can be weapon skill 7, so you could make a really tanky king. I just don't think that's necessarily super worth doing, especially as you say, dragon stomps are a lot of the value that you get, right?
Yeah, no, I do actually rate the Rune of Parrying. I think it's one of those that if you've got the points for it, it's probably worth putting on. I think they're really good. There's a lot of people that have kind of built into parrying. So you're going with your weapon skill 7, you're getting parrying. So a lot of stuff's hitting you on 5s. And then you're giving yourself a really good save and you're just becoming just really like a tank. Like if you're going to do a tanky defense build, then you're always going to have a Rune of Parrying in there as well.
Sure. That makes sense. So you're reckoning B tier?
Yeah, I'd go B. I think
I
it's
can see
good. A
that.
lot of people use it. I think it's quite nice.
What I do
Um,
like about it, sorry, what I like about it is that you can put defensive upgrades on your weapon and then still theoretically take 3 defensive upgrades on your armor. So you could double down and go real tanky if you had the points to and enough upgrades you wanted to go for that.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. You can build an absolute tank monster if you want to, which is a good way to go because obviously if you've got him in there, you're relying on your static combat res of the unit, and then this guy's surviving, and that's a really good tactic as well. So that's nice to play into them big gribblies.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Cool. Had a couple of extra people joining. Matthew's here, Cam's here. Good to have you. Tudolf likes the -1 hit on the banner. That makes sense, but I feel like I just want more stuff because the BSB you give him the do you give him the Rune of Grommel on the BSB for a 2-up save?
So it's the Rune of Grumney. So for the armor, it's the Master Rune of Gromril is
Yeah, that's
the
what I'm
one I
asking.
always go for. Yeah. That's the one I always
Yeah.
go for. Yeah.
So he's got a 2-up, 5-up. He's got 5 wounds between his wounds and the shield bearer. So you can go more into defense, but I feel like it's the stomps that are going to cause you issue, and it's 35 points. So I'm not a sorry, it's only yeah, 35. But anyway, yes. Moving on. Rune of Banishment for you.
So there's a caveat to this. Like
Yeah.
it's a grudging unless you play against demons, then it's S tier.
Yeah. So no. It's not. Do you know why it's not? Because you know what turns off the ward save demons have? Magical attacks. Just take any other rune. It gives you magical attacks anyway, right? So why are you paying 25 points? Like you could
That's
just
amazing. I hadn't even thought about that before.
yeah, like you could just spend 5 points to give it the rune of speed on a hand weapon, and suddenly you've turned off the ward saves. That just feels, that feels terrible. So yeah, straight to grudging, get in the bin, hate it.
Yeah,
Rune of Fury, 25 points for each
So-
Rune of Fury, and you can take multiple of these. You get +1 to your attacks.
Yeah, really good. Like you can run a really offensive build. So if you're not going down into the multiple damage, you could take like 3 of these, suddenly you've got an extra 3 attacks. And yeah, it's really good. Like I think they're really good. But you're always going to want to take these on Slayers rather than on the conventional heroes. So you're taking those tattoos to get the extra attacks as well, and then getting the Fury, as many Furies as you can. So I think if you're running like multiple Doomseekers, one of them is probably going to have Alric the Mad, and then the other one's going to be loaded up with Furies. They work really well on the Dragon Slayers as well, just because you're trying to force through that multiple damage onto the behemoths. I really rate these. I think A tier personally.
Okay. So I've never seen you take them. Does that take it out of A tier, even though I've never seen you in your list?
It's just because I play a certain way. I fully appreciate that a lot of people run these really well.
Yeah.
And I can see how they can be used. Like I've used them in games. I just haven't taken them to competitive games because I play a certain way, right?
Sure.
But in a different kind of build, they're really good.
Yeah. I'd like to see them put on handguns. I know it doesn't work, but then I'd get excited about them. If you're like 25 points for your second shot, all right, yeah. I mean, obviously there's another way of doing that, but
yeah, that's just bursting flame, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, perfect. So you've got the grudge rune, very fittingly.
Straight in grudging, it's terrible.
Is it? It's 20 points. You get a reroll a natural hit roll of a 1. I mean, that doesn't feel like grudging to me.
Right. So if you're playing Royal Clans and you're fighting into the hero that you've already grudged, you're
Sure.
getting hatred anyway.
Yeah.
But
what if I'm not playing Royal Clans?
Well, you get if you've got your king or your thane in a bodyguard unit, they get hatred heroes.
Sure.
So you've kind of got rerolls for that first round of combat into the things that you want rerolls in anyway.
Yeah.
So you'd only be able to use this normally on the second round of combat,
Sure.
and by then you probably don't need it, I think.
So, but unless you're attacking into units, that thing that kings typically do.
Yeah, unless you're like really clever with where you put your king and then angle it so you can hit the enemy characters and smash into that, right?
Yeah. All right. So you want to say this is going straight into grudging because it effectively does nothing because you've got rules that give you that benefit anyway. Fair play. I can't argue with it. It's hard to argue with. How about the Rune of Might? Tell me about that one.
So I like the Rune of Might actually. I used to the Rune of Might is amazing.
From
100%.
D6 Wounds.
You're right,
Great
mate.
channel,
You're right, mate.
also super aptly named.
Yeah, I love it actually. That works really, really well. Been loving the dwarf content lately, mate. It's awesome. Yeah, so for the Rune of Might for me, I think it's really good. We've seen that in a few builds, which are really cool. So you can get yourself up really high strength, so that suddenly you are wounding those dragons on well, you could just wound in everything on twos without having to spend that on a master rune as well, which is always quite nice. Because obviously, if you're royal clans, then you can get yourself to strength 5 and then get up to the high strength like you said before, and that's only a 20-point investment, which is quite nice.
Sure. So B?
I don't. Yeah, I think B. I think.
Yeah, I don't hate this, and it's only 20 points, but it kind of feels hard to fit in. When for 65 points instead, I could just always wound on twos. Why would I not take the Master Rune of Alric instead?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
so
I mean,
much better.
Alric the Mad's so good. I mean, the only time you're going to put these in is if you've already got Alric the Mad, or you just kind of need to make up the points, right? I think.
Yeah, we don't even mean Alric. We mean bloody Scalf Blackhammer with his wounding on twos. But yeah, these feel reasonable. So where do you reckon? Sort of top of B, bottom of A, somewhere around there for the. It's worth noting as well that you can take multiple of them, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's where the real strength is for these. Yeah, I'm happy to go B. Actually, I'm happy to go B.
The real strength.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So sidebar here. You've got it. Dwarves have big axes. That's this is known. So if you take a really big axe and then you put the Rune of Strength on it to make it easier to hold, does the strength come in? Are you able to pick it up, or do you have to have picked it up to get the benefit of the Rune of Strength? Do you have to struggle to get it, and then once you've got it, you've got to?
No, I think it would be like Gottrak's axe, wouldn't it? Like how he can just kind of like twirl it around on his finger, but then nobody else can pick it up. I think it would be like that. It'd be like Mjolnir, wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah.
So it's like it knows you. That's the thing. So like
Sure.
as you go to pick it up, it like just the runes
come on
go
now.
in.
Magic axes make sense to me, but sentient axes, that's pushing things too far. That's beyond the realm of believable.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah, sweet. So we've got one that was surprisingly impressive, and then we've got the Rune of Cleaving, 15 points, hand weapon only. For each Rune of Cleaving, improve the AP by 1. So for 15 points, for 30 points, you can make a hand weapon worse than a great weapon.
You can, but I really like the Rune of Cleaving, and
okay.
I normally take it in my competitive builds, actually.
Yeah.
I really rate it because it's a really cheap way to give your anvil magical attacks, and also it replaces the AP that you lose from making your attacks magical, because you would normally lose the Gromril.
Yes,
so you kind of pay 15 points to be able to deal with a Green Knight, basically.
I mean, yeah, that's fair, actually. That is fair. That's why it's good to have you on, because there's combinations and there's niche use cases that I wouldn't necessarily... Like, I wouldn't be sat here going, God, how do I protect my anvil from the Green Knight? And the answer is just a single Rune of Cleaving.
Exactly.
I also did forget that they have Strength 5 hand weapons on that anvil. So, okay, fair. So where do you want to put that? That seems like a B tier to me as well, right?
Yeah, we'll go B. I mean, like, it doesn't really come up that much, but then when it does come up, it'll win you a game. So yeah, I'm happy for B.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. Anthony's here, my favorite 2 old world YouTubers. Hello, thank you very much, Anthony. Extend both my memberships, but having patience, buddy, don't worry about it. You do whatever you need to do. Don't.
Yeah, honestly, don't worry, man. It's cool. We're just happy that you're watching, to be perfectly honest. So you're right, mate.
And commenting as well. That's genuinely really helpful. How active people are in the chat always really helps with the getting more people here, which is nice. But yeah, so moving on from the Rune of Cleaving, you've got the Rune of Striking.
So this is a fun one.
Okay, lay it on me.
It's useless.
That's pretty brilliant. I like that. Yeah.
It was just terrible. I've just never ever had a scenario where it's worked for me. I used to keep trying it. The cleaving with Doomseekers with Albert and Mad. I like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's going to go up to the top of behind Rune of Might. That's better than thinking. But yeah. Tordov does say it combos nicely with Rune of Parrying. If you want to pay a lot of points, you can reduce enemy lords' offense from hitting you on 3s to 5s. That's 50 points though. That's way more than I'm willing to spend when it's the stomps that are going to kill me. But I mean, that is true. It does do.
Although if you combine that with them hitting you on 5s and then wounding you on 6s,
Yeah.
that works.
Sorry, I just got sidetracked. Grinaldi says, "Why is B third from the top?" I was like, "Because that's how a tier list works." Then I read further. Doesn't B stand for beard, and beard must always be in top.
Why am I underneath then?
Yeah, well, it's because you're shorter than me, because you're a dwarf. I'm not going to
Okay.
relabel it to beard, just because that might be confusing. Because people would be like, "Why is beard not above S?" Because yeah, no, that's fair. Because we've got what? We've got beard, axe. I don't know what we're putting in for S tier. There's got to be something that we can put in there. Uh, but
Smiting.
yeah, oh, there we go. There we go. God, what were we even talking about? Rune of striking,
We were just
15
gonna
points.
put Rune of Striking just in like grudging.
I don't think it's a grudging.
Nah, it's okay.
It's
I
so
think it's
cheap
one
though,
of the
right?
yeah, like it's one of those runes that you'll be like, I've got this amazing plan for it, and I'm gonna combine it with this rune, I'm gonna combine it with that rune, and then it just doesn't work. That's the problem I have with it. Like if you've got enough points, and you can fit it in there, sure, why not? But I just can't find a place for it in my heart, unfortunately.
So I think here's my pitch for why it can go in at least C tier. And the pitch is it takes a thing from weapon skill 6 to 7, which means you're going to hit, you know, weapon skill 3 troops on a 2 instead of a 3. And for 15 points, that is at least it does something that is measurable. So I don't think that's down to grudge and tier. Like grudge and tier should be reserved for the things that are like truly heinous. Like, you know, a 65-point rune that means you wound on 2s when you could just, you know, take a great weapon.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Right, just chuck it in your crap then. Let's move on.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. All right, so what was up next? I think you've got the Rune of Fire.
Ah, nice. Is there one under grudging? Can
I
we?
will. I will not argue this is going into grudging. Yeah,
Like,
it does.
just
It
gonna
makes you
have
better.
it?
It makes you better at killing trolls.
This flaming attacks just in general are just a nerf. Like they're so horrible to the point where if I'm playing a really, really tactical game against someone, I have to seriously consider leaving my BSB out of my unit that has my king in it because they're probably going to get a better save against me or an extra ward save,
Yeah,
which is just horrendous. Like you shouldn't have to think about that. I think there needs to be some changes to the main rules done in regards to flaming. I think it's just too much of a nerf. Too many armies have got flaming defense. They get extra set, like the Warp Fire Dragon gets extra saves against magical and flaming. Brilliant.
yeah.
So everything I have, brilliant, nice, brilliant.
No, that's it's hard to argue with. Yeah, it's if it got rid of regen the way that it always has in previous editions, that would make sense to me. But it
You mean
doesn't.
apart from giving an extra regen save to Warp Fire Dragon? Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, no,
But it's
I'm
a
just
ward save, so it's better than a regen.
all right, mate. I'm just gonna sit here grumbling for the next 10 minutes about it. Yeah,
That's
it just
super fair, super fair. Yeah, yeah, and the fact that, as you were saying, you know, your BSB being the runesmith, if you put a runesmith in the unit, they get flaming attacks anyway. So why would you bother? Just yeah,
yeah, exactly. And like your Iron Drakes have got flaming as well. I mean, you could make your random solo guy cause panic to war beasts and swarms, maybe.
sure, sure. Even if they're immune to psychology.
Yes.
So
I 100% agree. Flaming should negate they 100% should negate it. Like regen should just get switched off with flaming.
yeah,
100%.
I don't think anyone's really going to argue against that, especially because it's how it's always worked in the past. Thanks, Thomas. Good to have you here. What if we could take 2 runes of fire and it would work as fire in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, so it turns off just all regen? At that point, I guess it's worth doing. Yeah, but for now, no. Then we've got the Rune of Speed, which is hand weapon only, +1 to your initiative, and I'm gonna say this has to go in Rune for Improvement because it is only 5 points. It's the only 5-point rune. If you take the only 10-point rune, it is actively bad for you because it's flaming. So this is the only way without spending 15 points to get magical attacks. And for that reason alone, I think it has at least a reason to be put in C tier. It does do something.
Something else that you've forgotten though is that you can put it on slayers.
Okay, sure.
So you like if you're charging in and you're putting that onto like a random little Slayer hero that's running around by himself. Remember, you wound everything on 4s, right?
Yeah.
Which is just really, really good. So your random Slayer hero, you can make them super fast. Okay, they're not going to have the AP, But if you're just relying on them running in and trying to do as much damage as possible in a flank so they don't get hit back, for instance, that could be a good way to go.
Sure, sure. Torvald says being initiative 6 is important. That's fair. That's fair for Slayers, as you were talking about. I can see that. Yeah. So So I've got it in C. Do you want to move it to the top of C, or do you want to move it to the bottom of B?
No, that's fine. I mean, everything that I say about a Slayer army is a complete edge case because nobody plays the Slayer armies.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I'm working on one. I'm trying to make it work, and I will be getting one. So I'm running X-Force at the moment. I'm going to be running X-Force for the foreseeable future until the army gets banned, and then I'll move over to the Slayers.
Yeah, the internet was not very happy with you.
Not particularly.
No, we've both had a rough couple of days, haven't we? Where people have been kicking off over things that are not objectively not a problem, but that's fine. We'll not touch on that one too much. And that takes us to the end of the weapon runes. So obviously there are more weapon runes specifically for ranged weapons. We'll get to those towards the end of the list because they're in the Arcane Journal. But that's a pretty healthy spread, honestly. There's one that's amazing. There's two that are pretty good. There are four that are probably still worth taking, and then by magic weapon rates, that's probably better than we've got in the base rulebook for magic weapons. There's like one that's good, and then everything else is terrible.
So I think this is like a standing theme in all of the the two dwarf books. Like everything is relatively quite well balanced. I think GW did a really, really good job with the dwarf book. I think it kind of reined in after the madness of Mortuary Cult, Royal Host, and the Bretonians a little bit, I think. And it's quite. I think the dwarf book is a nice kind of level that the rest of the armies could kind of go from. I think it's nice. Everything's worth taking. I think there's always edge cases where you could take it. You wouldn't just. I mean, there's a couple, right? Like the Rune of Fire, but most of it you could find a place for it, and you don't have that in a lot of armies.
Yeah, that's super fair. So we're on to the armor runes, and I am going to talk about this one because you're wrong. So the Master Rune of Adamant, 100 points. A model wearing armor inscribed with the Master Rune of Adamant has a toughness characteristic of 10. It can't be combined with any other armor runes. This is bad, and I know you disagree, but you are incorrect. Would you like to tell me why I'm wrong?
Right, so S tier, 100%. Rune of Adamant is
not
absolutely
a fucking chance.
Mate, it's amazing. It's so good. Toughness 10, everything in the game wounds you on a 6, apart from Empire Cannons.
And?
Ogre Cannons.
And? Poison shooting, which is why it's not.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, everyone goes on about poison shooting. Just screen it. You're not a large target when you're the anvil, so stuff can't see you. If you lose your anvil to poison, something's gone wrong because you should have a really big like screen of warriors and stuff in there, or like you're shooting. Like you shouldn't be able to get so much poison coming at you. If a goblin poison blob is close enough to you to be able to poison your anvil, you've lost the game anyway, right?
I don't think so. I think you're pretty happy about that because it means they're probably in charging range.
Well, I mean, you're just going to run at them turn one, right?
Yeah. I disagree. I think genuinely I would put it in grudgeon tier because it's so expensive. Genuinely, I think I would put it all the way down there. How about neither of us be happy with this? We split the difference and we put it in B for now, and we can look at revisiting. But so if I'm going defense, just go for a better save. Like that makes way more sense to me. I would say.
Right. So we've played, obviously. We've played competitively quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
When you beat me with Double Dragon, you killed my anvil.
Mm-hmm.
Could your dragon kill a toughness 10 anvil?
I just wouldn't charge it.
Exactly. Which won me the game?
No, I just would go for something better though, right?
But what you've got...
If you're referencing the last time we played, that was because I turned my brain off and I was like, oh, there's no way you can charge me with your D6 wound lord who eats dragons for breakfast. And then you're like, yeah, I'm just going to charge you. And I looked and I was like, oh, yeah, no, you can do that. That had nothing to do with the anvil, so we can't use that as evidence.
Well, the thing is, so the first time we played, everyone at home. So the first time we played, I was running a dwarf gun line, which is not the way to go. Don't do that. It's not a good way. It's not fun for anyone either, right? But basically, I only had Rune of Preservation on my anvil. He charged into me, managed to kill it with the dragon, easy. What the toughness 10 does is it makes your opponent have to choose worse things. So they're either going to have to go into the Iron Drakes and take a load of stand and shoot, or they're going to have to go into the big unit. Yes, Big brain play. Love it.
No, they were saying that I had brain damage, which is honestly fair. It was not my finest moment. But yeah. Cool. So on the basis of let's both be unhappy, and we can come back and adjust it later on if we need to. But we should move on with the stream. So yeah, it's not S tier. S for shit, maybe. Do you want to tell us about the Master Runner Gromil?
Right, so Master and a Gromril, absolutely amazing. Auto take, S tier, 2-up save, brilliant.
I agree. No argument here. It's good. You combo it with the having a BSB in the unit, so you've got a 5-up ward save as well. You're a king. You've got the shield bearers. You've got 6 wounds. Your T5, 6 wounds, 2-up save, 5-up ward. That's not far off a dragon. Like, it's not quite a dragon, but it's a good amount of stats, and it means that you can go toe to toe with a dragon with that big, massive D6 damage axe that you can only take in Royal Host if you're comboing it with the 2-up save.
Yeah, like I would quite happily take any challenge with any dragon into my king. There's only been a couple of edge cases where I've died, and that's because I've just rolled like an absolute idiot. Because a dragon with AP2, you're getting a 4-up re-rollable save with a 5-up ward save. So the maths for you dying is very low. Yeah. Like statistically, I should only take 1 wound against the dragon. And I've just had a couple of games where I've just rolled loads of 2s, re-rolled into loads of 2s, and then failed every ward save. So if the dice want it, the dice have it. But statistically, Gromril armor with the buffs is brilliant.
I wonder if the best, weirdly, like I wonder if the Dark Elf Sorceress with Demonology would be the best target to go in, because you buff up all of your, like, so you're wounding on 2s anyway, but you buff it up to AP3. That's probably not it. Like, I wonder, I'm going to have to sit down and work out what the best dragon to specifically kill that king is, given that we do play all the same events.
Yeah, I mean, like Chaos doesn't work. Like that Chaos dragon into him, like I've banged, must be like 4 or 5 of them out. It's because they're defensively not as good as the Elf dragon.
Yeah.
So even if they do manage to get 2 or 3 wounds through, I can probably kill one in one hit, I think.
Yeah, but also it doesn't really matter if you kill it. Like, if you do you don't even need to do combat res. You just need to survive, and then you win on combat res. But also there's the risk that you just slap them and do... Yeah. Like, when we played, when I had a brain bleed, and you got charged by a 3-inch movement with a big axe, I then took 7 wounds in 1 round of combat because I couldn't pass a single 4-up ward save, which was real sad for me. So, yeah, would not recommend. But yeah, anyway, Gromil. Good stuff. Going straight up there. Moving on to the Rune of Iron, 35 points for +1 wound. That is disgustingly above the rate of how much you would pay for an extra wound for a dwarf, because you could just take the shield bearers, which is 60 points for 3.
I just don't see a scenario where you would ever do this. I just don't give it. So who's they're talking about X-Force and clans.
Expeditionary Force.
Yeah. So X-Force is Expeditionary Clan. So it's the gyrocopters and the thunderers and all that kind of stuff, which are good. I mean, we'll get to that in a bit anyway when we start talking about the engineering runes. We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rune of Iron, just rubbish. Drop it down. Now you're never going to use that, are you?
No, it's not a grudging, but it's just not worth taking. Like, maybe you want to stack loads of defenses, but I don't see why you would want to take it. But it's not going to harm you for taking it. It's just an inefficient choice, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. The next one's really good though. So Rune of Fortitude. The good thing about the Rune of Fortitude is you can take multiple of them, so you can stack these, and basically it gives you a +1 toughness.
This I can get behind.
I like being toughness 10 all the time. But no, it is really good. It is really good. So you can like a normal dwarf hero, you can get them to toughness 8, which is really good. Mm-hmm. So that does still mean that dragons are still wounding you on 6s. So that's pretty nice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. 90 points to achieve that as well. It's okay. Like, I'll take that. I mean, if I'll take 100 points for toughness 10, I'll take 90 points for a higher toughness, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I would combo all of them. But getting up to T6 is quite nice. Obviously, a lot of stuff in the game is low toughness. If you wanted, Slayers can't take these because they don't wear any clothes, can they? That's a shame, because getting them up to T6 would be really nice. But they have the runic tattoos, and I think they can do that anyway, can't they?
They've got their own stuff that they can do. Obviously, this stuff that we're talking about now is literally just the Grand Army, just normal dwarves, basically, so not the Slayers.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I like T6 or T7 is obviously a great breakpoint as well. Chaos Dwarves love getting up to T7 with their version of this.
Oh, it's a
Not,
stat check, isn't it? Like
yeah,
T7's really hard.
yeah, T7's good because even like most great weapons and lancers are going to be wounding you on 5s or 6s, depending on the base strength. So obviously into dragons, which is what you're expecting to face, it's not incredible, but it's still quite nice to have.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, it's a good defensive rune. I think top of B tier. That's where I've whacked it in. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think top of B. I think it's
Yeah.
good. Like we don't see it in every list,
Mm.
but it's got room to be in every list. So yeah, definitely B sounds good. The next one is probably one of my favorite runes. So the rune of preservation, straight in S tier, absolutely
Hell
amazing.
yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know, it stops killing blow and it also stops multi wound. So you can happily challenge out those ogre blade wielding or anything that's got killing blow. It's such a good rune. It's so good.
Yeah, that turns 6 wounds into like so many. Because if you look at like a 9 wound dragon, and then you get charged by a chaos lord on dragon with an ogre blade, so like okay, that 9 wounds does not go as far as I want it to, but 6 wounds that can't be multi-wounded suddenly does actually take some real chewing to get through, which I like, and it's incredibly frustrating to play against. Even though I don't particularly play magic weapons, I still hate to see it.
Oh,
With
it's
my
so good.
mods
And
playing.
there's a really interesting kind of play that you can do with it as well. So if you've got that on a king or on a thane, you could potentially just pop him out of a unit so that if
Mm,
anything goes into a unit, the king or the thane can go into the side because they're quite happy chilling out by themselves. Obviously, you want to give them the ward save from the banner, but if you're playing against something that's going to surround you really easily, you
yeah.
could just pop that hero out because it makes them so defensive. So
Mm.
cannons can't one bang them. Like it takes so
Oh yeah.
many cannon shots to be able to kill one. Like pretty good.
And if you're really worried about being sniped as well, it's just good to have.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
take
for
it
sure.
not for that, but just like, oh, hey, you can't even snipe me with cannonballs now, even if I'm in a unit. You can't get lucky, so sucks to suck. But yeah, good stuff there. And then we've got one that is worse. The Rune of Shielding for 15 points. You get a 6-up ward, and you can stack it, and you can take 3. So you could get a 4-up ward, say, for 45 points, which honestly is not bad. And it's
Yeah,
at rate for Talisman of Protection, 30 points for a 5-up ward save. Here's the problem. Just take the banner that gives you a 5-up ward save to your entire unit. Um,
yeah, that's the thing, right? Because
yeah,
when you're running dwarves, basically your entire unit is ablative saves to your heroes anyway. So
yeah,
if you're buffing the unit, you're buffing your heroes.
yeah.
I do see a lot of people that do stack these up to 3 to get the 4-up ward save. I think they're crazy just for the fact that I always roll 1s, 2s, and 3s. So
Fair,
there's no
fair.
way I could make this work. Like I don't need a 4-up save. I don't need a 4-up ward save in my life because I'll never pass it.
Yeah,
So that's why I always rely on like the anvil rerolls and everything. But they are really good. They are really
yeah.
good.
You know what? This would be
And
amazing if you could put it on a
yeah,
dragon. That
yeah,
would be great.
cries in high elf, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, this is B tier. Like, I can still see a reason for it, or if you want to put your BSB with a ward save in a different unit, I'd be a little bit hotter on this if you could take 3 of them and combo it with the Gromil rune. So you had a 2-up armor save and a 4-up ward, but because you can't do that, it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit less exciting for me.
Yeah. It is a bit annoying. The fact that if you did buff yourself to a 4, you can't combine it does really take the shine off it.
Yeah,
Because giving yourself a 5-up ward and a 2-up save, okay, right? Any other army be like, oh, that's amazing.
yeah.
But you're sacrificing so much to be able to do that. So I think, yeah, probably a B, I think.
Yeah, because it's not bad, and I can see reasons to take it, but it's just there's better, more efficient ways to tool out your characters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Perfect. All right, and then you've got the Rune of Stone.
I just I just wouldn't bother, I don't think.
No, it is only 5 points, so it's single use. You reroll a single failed armor save. You know, you can take multiple of them. It's fine. If I had 5 points, I wouldn't be opposed to putting it in. If I needed 5 points and I didn't have anything more efficient, a single reroll, that's okay. If you're not playing the anvil, this becomes a little bit more appealing. Not massively more, but it's not awful.
Yeah, I mean the only problem I'd say is if you're not running an anvil, you're probably not going to be in combat though, so you probably don't have to worry about it.
Well, you still have to take saves. In fact, you arguably have to take more saves if you're not in combat.
Yeah, a lot more saves actually. I'll give you that
Yeah.
one. I'll give you that one.
So I reckon like top of rune for improvement, maybe Bottom of B, I don't know if I want to put it in bottom of B. That feels a little bit optimistic. Just because,
Yeah,
like,
room for improvement, definitely.
realistically, I can't see a point that I'm ever putting it in a real list. But like on paper, I'm like, okay, it's only 5 points. I could sneak this in if I had spare points. I won't have spare points is the problem. Perfect. All right, that takes us to the end of the armor runes, and we're on to the talismanic runes. Do you want to start us off with a bound spell? Because that's what dwarves do. They have spells.
Yes. Well, we don't run that magic that the puny races use.
It says here bound spell with a power level 2. That sounds like you're
because
casting magic.
the book was written by a manling. All right, it's human propaganda. That's what it is.
Okay.
So the bound runes, we got so it's start with the master rune of calm.
Yeah.
Now, my issue with I've got a couple of issues with this. It's 50 points, which makes it obnoxiously expensive what it does, and it's got 2 different casting values. I think this would be worth it if it was the higher casting value effect all the time for the lower casting value. So basically, what it does is it's got 2 different ranges. So it's a range self spell, and then you project an aura out. So it's got a casting value of 8 and then a casting value of 11, and then it just gets a bigger aura to be at -2 for enemy wizards casting, like the biggest one being at 36 inches.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, that's absolutely amazing.
I'm not.
And well, if it works, it's really good. Like if it wasn't a master rune,
Yeah.
and it was 25 points, it would be an auto take in my opinion.
Just gambling for that 36 inches of no, you don't get a cast easily. Yeah, if it was 25 points, I could squeeze it in. I don't disagree with that. I don't even think I care about it being a master rune because, like, you're not necessarily. Oh no, yes, you are. Never mind. I forgot about the other really good master runes that are just further down there. Tordov says it's drain magic. You either rate it or hate it. It's not. It's a good drain magic because you can't dispel it. The fact that drain magic has remains in play kills it entirely. The problem with this one is you're just never going to roll that. Well, you're not reliably going to roll the 9 on the 2d6 to get it to where you need it to.
No, actually, I'll tell you what. Right, this would be amazing to take on Runespiff if the runes of spell breaking didn't exist. If they didn't exist, every army would have this, in my opinion.
Sure. So I think it's hard to say that that's a grudging then. So like probably somewhere in rune for improvement.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've took it to events before.
Yeah.
And I won the event that I took it in, so must be all right, I suppose.
or just played well.
Yeah, just played at a 50-point handicap, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, not a results based analysis household. This is a Anyway, we'll move on. We're just going to leave it there. There's also the Master Rune of Balance, 35 points. And to point out, talismanic runes, they can only go onto the runesmiths. Is that right?
No. So anyone can take these, but there are specific ones that only runesmiths can take. So like the Master Rune of Balance is that, and the spell breaking. So those have to be taken on runesmiths. There was initially a little bit of a wording issue because people were like, "Oh, you can't take it on the Anvil of Doom because it doesn't have that keyword," but you can. So don't worry.
Perfect. All right, Master Rune of Balance. As said, Anvil of Doom and Runesmith only. Once per turn, you may use it when attempting a wizardly dispel. You roll an extra d6 and discard the lowest results. 35 points. That's not awful. That is basically Oakenstave without the additional range. The problem is you're at best a level 3, which is going to be behind your lines, or you're a level 2, which is an 18-inch range dispel. Or a level 1, which is an 18-inch range dispel with barely any pluses to it. So, like on paper, that sounds great, and then you remember which army you're in. You're like,
That's the problem. And the thing is, like that. Why are you ever going to take that? Where the Rune of Spellbreaking, all of our magical defense comes from the Rune of Spellbreaking, and you're just going to save all of your points for that. Because you're going to want to try and get at least 3 of them in an army. Like I've seen a lot of people now reckon 5 of them, which I rate. I think that's good. You want to be able to try and stop those camping army spells. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's fair. So what do you reckon? Sort of top of Rune for improvement?
Or yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
No, I think Rune for improvement. I think.
Yeah. That's fair. Sweet. All right. So tell me about the Master Rune of Spite, which is very fitting.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Like, so it's 35 points, and then when you lose a wound, you do strength 5 AP2 hit to the opponent. that's done the wound to you. Like
Yeah.
it's just awful. Like you're relying on taking wounds to do wounds back. It's just not a good way to play. Like realistically, you want to try and build a character that doesn't take any wounds, right?
So the one thing I'd say about this is it is probably the best version of this because you can get the additional 3 wounds from the shield bearers, and it's a strength 5 AP2 hit, which is I think that's the best output that we've seen for any of these auto hits. The Bretonian one is strength 3 AP1. I feel like there's another one floating around that's like strength 4 AP1, something like that. So at least it has the best stats. But yeah, I'd rather just do damage. However, dwarves do have low initiative.
Yeah, we do. I mean, if this was what Deathblow was on normal Slayers, I think
Yeah,
Slayers would actually be a lot better than they are, rather than being strength 3.
sure. I reckon this is room for improvement because I could see you building around it to be cute. Like it's not actively harming you for taking it. Like if your dwarf characters are going to take wounds, like this will happen because they're going to be, in combat. Realistically, it's just not. It's not actively helping you.
No, no. I
Yeah.
mean, right. If we compare this with the next one, then, which is S tier,
Uh huh.
straight in. So the
It
rune of
really
spell
is. Yeah.
breaking. So this is if you're gonna attempt to dispel
Yeah.
a spell. So you need to be within wizardly dispel range. So the runesmiths are 18. But if you are yeeting your unit forward, then you can get in range really easily.
Hmm.
And you basically just stop it. And also, if you play it right, and you can just stop as many as you want in each phase as well, then it's really, really good. Because I think for the first 6 months I played it that you couldn't dispel. You had to do it in different phases, so I just
Yeah, I
self
remember when
nerfed.
I told you that, and you just had
Yeah,
like your brain just shut off
yeah,
because I believed you. You're just like, oh no, you can only use one per turn, mate. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then at some point looked it up, and I was like, bud, you could just dispel the second one. It's like, no, you can't. Well, actually, you can bend me over right now because yeah, you can do that. So, oh, great. Yeah, that was the doubles game. I remember that one. You won that.
yeah.
I've mistakenly labeled it Master Rune. It's not a Master Rune.
No,
Apologies.
no,
I typed 63. I got one typo. I can only apologize for my actions. But
I mean
yeah,
it, it's as strong as a mastering though. It's amazing. I think a slight pitfall that I think people get into when they are using the spell breaking is they spunk them too quickly. They have a they see all of their spells coming in and they're like, oh, I need to stop everything. You just stop the stuff that's absolutely vital for your opponent winning. You want to spread these out as much as you possibly can because there's going to be that one time when they need to cast the most pivotal spell that's going to win them the game, and then you just chuck this down. You see a lot of people that use all their 5 just straight away, and you need to save them. Like getting like -2 to your save or minus toughness, and the opponent can't actually touch you, doesn't matter. It's
yeah.
you need to save it for when there's something coming at you that's going to really do the damage. Like these are amazing. These will win you games. They're so good.
There we go. I've just I'm fixing it. I'm covering up the master so that nobody complains in the comments because even though I've said, oh, I've made a mistake, it's not actually that. I just know that people will point it out in the comments. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So yes, the rune of spell breaking, absolutely incredible. One of the best things about it is the fact that it's extremely common. So you just take 3 on your character. You then might take 2 characters. First person I saw doing that was shout out to my mate Tom, who is playing dwarves, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to take. I think he took 5 runes of spell breaking between 2 casters, 2 runesmiths, which I respect. I'd hate to play against because I do enjoy my pivotal spells. So that would be very frustrating for me. But they're great.
Yeah,
They're really good stuff.
yeah. Like the problem is when you're taking 5, like if you're playing against a good player that's got 5 of them, you're just not getting any spell off that you need. Like you're just not
100%.
going
Yeah.
to. All right.
Which is the whole point of it. And it's expensive to do. That's what 125 points plus 2 runesmiths. So you're paying for the privilege to turn off
Yeah.
the entire magic phase. So
Oh, for sure.
that's fair. Cool. Rune of Warding. Move over high elves. We've got a new 2-up ward save in town. 20 points, single use. Get a 2-up ward save against a single wound. This is like the Opal Amulet. Here's the downside. There's no dwarf dragons. So it's a little bit lower value.
Yeah, like it's really good. It's absolutely amazing. The problem with it is you're not your heroes die for mass attacks. That's the problem. It's the fact that something's getting 6 dragon attacks. It's
Yeah.
getting all of the attacks of the rider, it's getting the 6 or 7 stomps going into it. You're getting absolutely like smashed into. It's not just going to be the one attack that does the damage to you.
Yeah.
But the caveat to that is if you took these on an anvil, for instance, and a cannonball hits you, then you get a 2-up ward save against it. Then that is suddenly actually really good. And the Rune of Warding, for me, I would probably only take this on an anvil. I know loads of other armies would absolutely love this, but I don't think it has a place in our army. I don't think.
Yeah, this is one of the big reasons that I don't think that the Master Rune Adamant is good, because if you take 2 of these for 40 points, you're stopping probably all of the cannonballs that hit you. Like, who's going to shoot a cannonball at something that has a 2-up ward and has 2 of them? You have to theoretically hit it with 3 cannonballs before you start to care, which is just so demoralizing when you're like, oh, well, I've probably only got like 2 or 3 turns with the artillery because they've got an anvil, so they're going to yeet a unit up the board, and then my artillery's in real danger. So I like having a couple of these for effectively the same benefit as being tier 10. It's worse, yes, if a dragon charges into you, but you know.
Yeah. So I've seen the comments about putting them on Slayers,
Mm-hmm.
and I do agree that is quite nice to go on Slayers, but the problem is it's weight of attacks coming at you.
Yeah, because
because you don't have it. Exactly, you've got no armor save. So if you are fighting against like a dragon ogre, for instance, it doesn't matter if you've got 1 2-up ward save, but the rest of them just kill you, right?
Yeah.
And that's something which is a bit annoying. So could definitely dodge a killing blow. 100% that's a good use for it, but it is 20 points. It could be used somewhere else.
Given the reason preservation is 25 points, and you can take multiple of them across the army, that's kind of hard to swing.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, no, there's definitely some good uses. So I'd say probably B, maybe. Like you can use
I'd put it in
well.
B. I think it's got a place. I really like it on the anvil. If I'm running an anvil, two of those, and then as you point out, the 5-point magic hand weapon, or the 15 points, AP1, so that I can deal with the Green Knight. That sort of jobby there. Perfect. That takes us on to the Rune of Luck. Single use. Use it to reroll a single failed hit, wound, or armor save roll for 15 points. Remember how much it cost for a single armor save? Oh no, it was 5 points. I thought it was 10 there for some reason. I mean, if you had enough points to take adamant and this and the D6 wounds, like, so your big hitter king has more chance to kill a dragon, I'd be on board. But you don't.
Unfortunately, no, you don't. Like, you can squeeze in a cheeky 5-point Rune of the Furnace, which I like to do. Sure. But yeah, like you just can't do it. I just like if you put it with a Rune of Smiting to be able to reroll one of those wounds, you're gonna fail, like, because that just always happens. Like even if you're wounded on 2s, I guarantee you roll 3 1s. That's just how the game works. So you could like do it into that build. But I just don't think it's very good. I'd say like low room for improvement, I think.
That's fair. That's fine. It's quite expensive for what it does for a single use, I think.
That was 5 points. Yeah, I'd take that.
Yeah. I feel like a fair pricing for it is 10 points, but I wouldn't take it at fair pricing, is probably how I'd look at that. Do you want to tell us about the Rune of the Furnace that you do take?
So the Rune of the Furnace, I personally think that this is a clutch rune. I think a lot of people sleep on this. I would probably put it in A tier, high A, because this will win you games. Now you get a 3-up save against fire, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's not very good." But you get a 3-up save against fireball. You get a 3-up save against Zeech's fire. You get a 3-up ward save against pillar. And the critical things is that the armies that are really good into dwarves, like really good to the point where they break us, are other dwarf armies and also chaos dwarves. We don't play very well into mirror matches at all.
Sure.
So if your king has got a 3-up ward save against flaming, you will win the grind of attrition into their king, because you're probably going to have the same loadouts. You're probably both going to have smiting. You're probably both going to have preservation. So you're just doing 1 wound to each other at a time. But with the Rune of the Furnace, you then get a 3-up ward save against their attacks because their runesmith is going to be in that unit giving them flaming. So that is suddenly absolutely amazing. Also, you can just kind of have your lone king running around by himself, or your lone hero, because most of a dwarf army is going to be flaming. So that's really, really good. And so you could like charge him into Iron Drakes quite happily just by himself. Which is just kind of glorious. Yeah, so Rune of the Furnace is amazing for me. Also, the Taurus has got flaming attacks. So it just stops that, because Chaos Dwarves are actually really, really strong into dwarves, which is Took me a couple of losses to find that one out.
Yeah, yeah. I really like this on the Thane specifically, the Thane with the gun, because this model probably wants to be solo half of the time, which means that one of the things that can pick it out is some lucky pillar of fire rolls. Just take that away. You know, if you've got like a 5-up armor save against the AP2, and then you've also got a 3-up ward save, you're realistically not dying, even though you've only got 2 wounds. So yeah, best 5 points you'll spend if you haven't spent the 5 points already, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's such a clutch rune. It's so good. And the next one is also pretty clutch as well. The Rune of Passage is absolutely amazing. So good. Giving an entire unit move through cover, which means that you're not going to slow down your charges. Obviously, you still have to take the lower dice when you charge in, but it doesn't reduce your movement. So that's really, really good. So if you are playing a combat dwarf army and you're trying to get up the board as quickly as possible, you won't get slowed down. So it's really good.
Yeah.
Also, if you're playing the terrain is dangerous and you've got a gun line in a terrain, you can kill so many of your models just by shifting, getting into line of sight. So this is really, really good.
Yeah. I reckon this is probably S tier in retrospect, because it's 5 points and it just stops you from losing 100 points every time you move a brick through a wood.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken it in every list I've ever run since the book come out. So yeah, probably S tier actually.
Yeah, I think it's really, really solid. Because being in a wood is so strong, you know, you've got so much static combat res, you're quite tanky, you've got big units that are hard to deal with, so you're probably not giving ground because you're in terrain if you're in a wood, at which point you might want to set up in a wood if you think someone's going to run towards you. I think that's just really solid. It means that you're not punished with your hefty movement 2 if you decide to start stood in some trees, for example.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I did get asked an interesting question earlier. So it was with the recent FAQ about buffs transferring and units not having it and all that kind of stuff. But this specifically works like a banner. So it does spread to the entire unit. So if you've got multiple heroes in there, they would all receive the buff, which is really, really good.
Yes, because it specifically says any unit joined by the bearer gains this rule, which is really nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Didn't realize dwarves have so many runes. Yeah, neither did I when I asked Richy to do it. But here we are, 63 runes and counting. We're making good headway, though. We're over halfway through, I think. So we're on to the standard runes, and there's the Master Rune of Grugny. 80 points, BSB only, 5-up ward save for the unit that has the Master Rune in, and all models within 6 inches, or all enemy units within 6 inches, you get a 6-up ward save against shooting. It's pretty good. It's pretty S tier.
It is pretty good. Yeah, straight in. It is. That is a godly standard rune. It is absolutely amazing.
Pretty great.
And the fact that some people don't realize this, but you can always have 3 runes on a standard. Like obviously you have to abide by the master rune, so you can only have 1 master rune, but there's no points limit on banner runes. So you can just go super expensive because there isn't a points limit, which is quite nice.
Which, I mean, dwarves kind of play a points denial style. So if you've got a BSB who's really hard to kill, which you can do very easily, which is like not giving up, like 350 points or something by the time you've tooled him up to be Rune of Battle, Rune of Confusion, and the other one. Is it Confusion that's the good one? I always get the names of them confused. No, so Confusion's the one you don't like.
Yeah. So I don't really rate Confusion. I also, we'll talk about it when we get there.
Let's just do it now.
No, it's all right. We'll do it in a minute. So the next one is the Stromny Redbeard. Now, I really, really rate this one. I think this is A tier. But the reason we don't see it much is people aren't really running the MSU style lists because of the rule of 3. If we were playing the game as it was intended to be played without the rule of 3, this would be S tier and everybody would be running it. If you had, and there's a reason for this, if you had 18 single gyrocopters, for instance, and you charged into a unit and you had this banner by it, you would get 18 static combat res just from those gyrocopters being in combat.
But what about lists built in the real world and not in magical Christmas land?
I mean,
that's so fucking dumb. I can't believe, like, I don't disagree with the words that are coming out of your mouth. I don't like them, and I don't necessarily think it would be a good list, but like, it would work. Like,
yeah, it would work really well as well. I think it'd be really good. But obviously, we don't play like that, so we can't have that.
And also, in a world charging loads of gyros in, and then they just die, which gives up combat res.
Yeah, but you've got 18, right?
You're not making 18 charges into one unit, I swear. Like,
surround him and charge in.
Yeah. So if we were playing the game the way that the game's meant to be played, we'd be running loads of individual units of helicopters.
Leave me alone. A man can dream.
This is why the internet hates you.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I think if you're running like a really MSU style army, this is actually really, really good. Like I've played a couple of guys that have run the really MSU super cheap, just throw in little darts of warriors in to get those extra combat res. And that can be quite scary. But you know what? Fucks that, dragons.
Yeah. You know what, folks? That just the things that are good in the game.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Shame that. Shame that.
Like I think it's good though. Like it's really good. It's definitely got a place.
Like a B tier to me. Then, if you don't play it, but you think there's a world where you could play it, but it's just not the meta.
Yeah. If we didn't, if so, anyone at home that isn't running the rule of 3, brilliant.
And if you also have somewhere in the realm of 6 to 12 copters, which most people don't.
It's rookie numbers, that, mate.
I'm happy to leave it in B, though, as much as I'm willing to wind you up about it as well. So let's move straight on to the Master Rune of Hesitation. And I do like this. This can cause some real issues because I like, if I'm playing a combat army, I want to hit you fast and I want to hit you hard. And this really stops me from doing that. 45 points. If you're charged from the front arc, you do not count as having charged for when you're selecting your weapons or the special rules. So basically what that translates to, turns off lances, turns off Furious Charge, turns off impact hits, turns off winning the combat. Anything else I've been getting there?
Oh, and it also got recently FAQ'd that it also works on fallback in good order as well. So that's
nice. Oh, turns off the Dark Elf banner of superiority, where you get plus D3 combat res, but only if you charged.
It just turns off everything.
Yeah, you just like, oh, if you got a rule that says if charged, no. Sorry, but no.
So I've just seen a vote for S tier for this. Now I'm going to argue against S tier. And the reason I'm going to argue against this, and I don't actually run it in my lists, is if you have the banner of hesitation on your big combat brick, nobody engages. You're too good. Like you're too good. People don't charge you and they'll just go for other stuff. When you're playing dwarves, you need to trick people into thinking that they can kill your unit. That's how you win games.
I think that's very valid. I think it's still very good. I'd say top of 8 for me.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing, but it's too good. That's the problem. It's
where I see it working is when you run 2 big bricks. So if you're leaning maybe more into points denial, or if you're playing an event that has objectives and you want to stand on top of the objectives and try and grind out score that way.
Yeah.
So you've got like a unit of hammerers with this. That's very strong, obviously. Then you've got maybe a unit of dwarves, just with tooled up with your characters the way that you normally would. You put this in the unit of hammerers so that if your opponent charges, they're like, oh wait, hold on, shit, I actually lose all of the things that make me good here. And then on the other unit, you've got all your characters to carry you. So there's just no good choices for going in. Yeah. Cool. All right. Now you can have your rant about Rune of Confusion.
Right, so Rune of Confusion, this only works on hammerers. So obviously they get the initiative bonus, they gain the extra attack if they're charged into. It's just, it's not good enough, because the problem with this is they only ever get charged by stuff that's really quick. Stuff where like dragons, big monsters, those are the things that will go after your hammerers and they'll just absolutely smash through them. Even though you can offer challenges with them if you've got a hero in there. They just die. If you're playing like a funsy game at home, confusion and hesitation on hammerers can feel quite oppressive. But yeah, no, it's not amazing. I would say I want to go B tier.
Sort of towards the bottom of B.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know what it does, 35 points. Enemy units that charge the front make a disordered charge, so they lose their initiative bonus, which, as you say, stacks with hammerers, because hammerers on the charge get +1 attack, +1 initiative, and they've got basically great weapons that strike at initiative 3 or initiative 4 if they're charged, which is fine. And you know what's really funny? Charging you with sword masters anyway. You're like, oh, yeah, hey, I'm initiative like 37, so sucks to suck, buddy. Classic elf propaganda.
I know, yeah. Good damn knife is.
Perfect. So that takes us on to the Rune of Fear, which gives the unit Fear. That is a well-named rune.
I know, yeah. So I actually quite like the Rune of Fear. I don't normally use it, and the reason I don't normally use it is because I use the Rune of Courage. So the Rune of Fear is 30 points, and basically you cause fear, which is really good. That's handy. You don't have to do fear tests. You don't have to do any of that stuff. So that's really good. And also, if you're a massive unit, you can make stuff potentially be -1 to hit you as well, which is quite handy.
Mm.
But the problem is, it's 30 points where you could just take the Rune of Courage for 15 points, and that means you don't have to do any fear test or courage test, which I personally think is better.
Yeah, yeah, because you're probably too expensive to outnumber in a way that would make the fear really beneficial, unlike Undead, where they've got their 4-point skeletons, and that's really annoying. So yeah, just turning off the downsides, I think you're right, it makes more sense.
Yeah,
So
and fear on a dwarf unit is also one of those things that you're probably going to forget about 9 times out of 10 anyway. So you're
being
probably
bad at
going
the
to
game
remember.
is not an excuse. You can't
Yeah,
say it's bad because you forget rules.
yeah, I know. It's just remembering that you don't have to do a test ever is easier to remember that in this one case, if I'm bigger than you, you have to do a test.
I think contextually for me, this is a rune for improvement because you've got just a way cheaper way of doing this.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Spot on. All right, so we will drag that one into. There it is already. Rune of Battle. 25 points plus 1 combat res. You can take multiple of these in an army. You will take multiple of these in an army. Is it bottom of S or is it the top of A?
Um,
I feel like top of A.
I don't know.
Because it's
I
good.
don't know.
It is
It
good.
opens up the avenue to always winning against monsters, though. So
What's the cap that dwarves can get? 1 for close order, 2 for the ranks.
so you can get the best that you can do on a unit is 8, and that's using
Oh
the
well, yeah.
yeah. So that's the rune of Stromy does that. So
Oh
Stromy,
sure,
sorry.
but without, I think that's too much. Like if you're talking about a BSB plus a
Oh,
single,
just not. So normally my normal unit would be 7.
yeah, which is the magic number because you take
Yeah,
a musician and then you ought to beat dragons. Yeah, cool. I think for me that's 8. Like it's good, but it's 25 points plus 1 combat res, and that's like at rate. I like War Banner. I put it in a lot of my lists. It's not the first thing I put in my list. I don't froth at the mouth when I see it. And also, you don't have any heavy chariots that you can put it on, so it's
no, this
lower in
is
my
true.
estimation.
But the other thing is though, this is a win condition. Like
Mhm.
that is a win condition for the army. You take the challenge, you try and deny as much damage as possible, and then you win on static combat. So yeah, definitely the top of A,
Yeah,
100%
yeah,
happy
yeah.
with that.
I think it's splitting hairs. It's very good. You're gonna take it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you want to tell us about Strollas's rune?
So I really rate Strollaz. I love it. If you're running a Royal Clans list or you're running any list that's got a cart in it to zip up the board, then this is the room for you. So basically you get a 3-inch Vanguard move. Just remember the cart doesn't affect this, so it's only ever going to be 3 inches. But it does mean that when you get the move again buff with the anvil, you can actually throw a unit in marching column 27 inches turn 1 because you get the 3-inch move at the beginning. Then you jump down into your marching column, then you go up 12 and then move again 12. So you can position almost anywhere on the board, which is really, really good.
I think realistically, you're moving what 8, 11 plus 12. So more realistically, you're moving 23 because you probably want to come out of marching column for the second move if you're just
It
jumping in
really
front of
do-
your opponent.
so it really depends what you're
Yeah.
playing into. So if you're playing into a mixed arms combat army with a bit of shooting, yeah, cool. You fan out on the second move. If you're playing against a gun line, nah, just straight at them.
Oh,
Like
sure.
because what you want to do, if you can park yourself in front of a unit that probably isn't going to charge you, that's the perfect time.
So I was actually saying that as a pro for the banner, because if you don't have the Vanguard rune and you're playing against something that can charge you, which a lot of armies are going to be able to, not many people play full gun lines, you're only moving, what is it, 18 inches? Yeah, you go 12 plus 8, so 20. You go in 20. Yeah. So this would mean you'd go 23. So you're ending up at best 6 inches away from them. And if they're playing, anything that you want to get into, and you've just jumped a combat break in front of them, they're probably not going to take the charge. 6 inches away is quite easy to avoid. Whereas if you move 23 inches and you can be 1 inch away from them, that's yeah. So I think for me, this is this kind of falls into the cute tier because it requires a very specific combo. It requires you to not fail your double move, which does happen more than you'd want it to. But I think it's a solid B tier rune. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think probably kind of mid B. I mean, there's another good use for it. You can put on Iron Drakes as well, so the Iron Drakes can shoot turn 1 as well.
Yeah.
So that's another use for it, which is really good.
That is true. The one downside to that I would say is if your opponent understands dwarves and is decent, they'll look at that and go, oh, so you could turn one be in range of me. I'm just going to deploy 0.5 inches back from the thing. So it'll definitely catch people out. But once people know about the combo, it's unfortunately not gonna get you there. What is your escape if the second move is not cast? The escape is you're a dwarf and you just take some punishment and oh, you charged me, cool. I wanted to end up in combat anyway.
Yeah, and then you just challenge out with your king and try and win combat that way.
Yeah, Peter's asking if you've ever played a friendly game with an allied demonology wizard. Most places don't do allies. You can't take them as mercenaries, can you?
No, so I've never well, I don't know if you can now with the Empire book. I haven't checked. I've never played with allies actually. Although it's just fun, right? Like I think that'd be really good. I am quite glad that allies doesn't happen because there's some crazy combos outside of dwarves. Like it's all well and good for us to be like, yeah, we could do all this really cool stuff, buff ourselves up. But then you look at the utter atrocities that could be done in other armies, and then
Kind of feel
yeah,
like
no,
dwarves are probably the like bigger offender, right? Because you just plug all of the holes. Like you can steal the shadows, so a unit can march 24 inches without needing the unreliable anvil. You've got actual magic defense. You can fill the gap with just more magic casters. I kind of feel like the biggest offender would be dwarves.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, like obviously high elves and dwarves probably wouldn't want to go together, but if they did, then you can get some like ethereal shooting and all that kind of stuff. So that could be quite nice. But yeah,
just
we
joining
won't
into
talk
the
about
same
that.
unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, cool. And then Rune of Courage, which you sang the praises of, 15 points. You
Yeah.
auto pass Fear and Terror.
Yeah, really good. The best uses for this is obviously if you want to charge into something that causes terror, or if you need to do stand and shoot. So this is something that will lose you the game if you don't have, and could win you the game if you do have. So I'm going to say A tier.
Okay, sure. Like very top of A tier then.
Yeah. Like you will either win or lose because of this rune. Like
I genuinely could be convinced to put it in S tier, because I've played armies with high leadership. I fail those rolls all the time. I play Cold One Knights. I take 2 sets of leadership tests every turn. Stupidity. Often I take them on leadership 10. You know how often I fail those? Enough that it loses me games, which sucks. Sometimes your Death Star gets charged by a dragon. I had that in my first game. I'm playing the Old World League, an online tournament at the moment. I had a Death Star of Chaos Knights, and I got charged by a Terracausa, and I fled off the board. And that took from, like, I think it was going to be like either a 10-10 or a very narrow loss to an absolute stomp because just, character plus Chaos Knights ran off the board. And
it happens, man. It happens.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good. But again, it's sort of like top of A, bottom of S. I'm not too bothered whether it goes. It's very good. We can leave it there. Which takes us to the end of the standard runes, and now we're on to some of the fun ones, or what should be the fun ones, but I find personally a little bit lacking. We've got the engineering runes. Do you want to start off with the master rune of immolation?
Yeah. So I mean, it's okay. Like if you were going to put that in a just on a cannon in X-Force, okay, as like a bit of a trap, okay, but it's just a lot of points. I would say very bottom of C. I mean, it could do something to like a little unit of Furies or something that's coming around, but yeah, it's not amazing.
I'd be tempted to just straight up put it in Grudgeon. Like it's first of all, dwarf crew win combat against skirmishing like harassment units more than you think. So you might not even die. You might just win the combat, which is fun. But then also it only happens if your valuable artillery piece that's at the back of the board dies, and then it explodes.
Yeah. To be fair, the amount of times I've played against Jack Cropper and my just normal dwarf crew have managed to kill Razor Gores.
It just happens. Yeah. Like the T4, so they just don't die sometimes. And then when they don't die, you're like, oh, I just get to make attacks back at you. Oh, I've got, okay. And bonk. Well, I killed one, you killed none. You run away. Cool. Good job on playing a dwarf army, and thus I have shooting galore. So I'm just going to pick that unit up before he gets to charge on my next turn. I think for me, this is like, I'm personally upset by this rule. This goes in my book of grudges.
Yeah, 100%. So next up, we've got the Master Rune of Disguise. So basically, it's always considered to be in full cover. I mean, that could be relatively good into poison spam, potentially.
That's true.
I haven't really played around with this, actually. Because at the beginning of the edition, I was like, that's rubbish. But thinking about it, that's actually quite good.
So let me walk you through my journey with this rune, and I haven't played it. But so start of the edition, I'm reading and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, holy shit, -2 to be hit by ballistic skill shooting. That feels really strong. And then I played a bit, and I was like, okay. Your artillery's going to be towards the back, so it's probably not going to happen. Then I played a bit more. I was like, okay, ballistic skill shooting. What's that? Don't see a lot of that. And now you've just gone, but then poison shooting, which is the one thing that you kind of do see a lot of. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, they're not shooting at your war machine, although these can go. Am I right in thinking these can go on your? Yeah, they can go on your anvil because it's a war machine, right?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah,
I think
yeah. Because remember the first game we had where I was like, "Oh, when does it get deployed? Does it get deployed with characters? Does it get deployed with your war machines?"
I don't think it can take troop type war machine. Oh, maybe I haven't been doing that.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah,
So yeah, instead of going for the I mean, this is not as good as the T10 for staying alive because this is only this is the other side of the coin. This is you being like, I don't care about poison shooting. I'm like, I only care about poison shooting. We need some sort of middle ground. Maybe we just go for the +2 toughness and call it a day. But yeah, this is cute.
yeah. I think there's definitely a rule somewhere that says the anvil
Oh
can't,
yeah,
but we'll find it.
Toval says that its list is limited. Okay,
No, there you go.
that's fine. I was cooking, but I burned the food, so we'll leave that. I think for me, this is like room for improvement. I can see a use for it, but I just can't see a use for it in the game as it is. I was just about to say when high elves come in, Sisters of Avalon, they're really good shooting, and then I remember they ignore cover anyway. So genuinely,
Yeah,
I was
they
like, yeah, okay, they just don't. And then also your engineers can apply cover. So
yeah. 100. I mean, you probably just put them in a wood anyway, right?
yeah. That's only -1 to be hit. So, for 30 points, you get -2 instead. But yeah, cool. That'll do. What are you thinking next? What we got?
So next up, we've got the Rune of Skewering. So this one is actually really good. So bolt throwers get a +1 strength, and you can't get armor saves against it. I really rate this. I would rate it a lot better if the bolt throwers
People
hit
played
better.
infantry.
And yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
Although I've had some really, really clutch shots with bolt throwers.
Mhm.
So I can remember the first time I played against the Scream list, and I was
Oh, yeah,
running. I think I was running 3 grudge throwers and 3 bolt throwers, and I managed to turn 1 kill Rebecca's mortis engine, which was quite nice.
Nice.
Which is good. I think if we start seeing, to be fair, I would say skewering is definitely an A tier, and the reason I'm going to say A tier is
Uh-huh.
because there are full cavalry armies out there, and this is amazing into cavalry.
If a cavalry player gives you the flank of a unit to your immobile war machine with the rune of skewering, they deserve to lose the entire unit. That's all I'm saying.
But you can easily set that up though. If they charge into you, you've got your banner of hesitation. They fall back in good order in a way that kind of gives you you can set that up.
Yeah. Again, if your opponent's playing cavalry and deliberately charges the front of a rune of hesitation unit, they deserve to lose.
Well,
But
yeah,
I mean,
there's,
that's kind of like the whole dwarf thing, right? Just give your opponent loads of bad choices. I'm saying that mockingly. I really like this. If I'm going to take war machines, like I'm thinking about whether I want to take a bolt thrower with a rune of skewering. It's 75 points. It is only ballistic skill 3, which sucks. Engineers don't impart their ballistic skill, do they, on the war machines like the Empire ones do?
No. You can
I knew
get
the answer.
reroll
I just wanted
ones.
to rub it in.
Reroll ones is fine. The best thing about this is that you can take this on 3 bolt throws. You just have to add in extra little runes so they're not all the same. So you could have 3 bolt throwers that all ignore armor saves, which is pretty tasty actually. So it's quite a big points investment, but I think if you're kind of skewing down that line, that could be quite good.
Skewering down that line.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like I could see one make it into one of my lists. I don't think I'd ever take multiple because you're getting up to like 80, 85 points to get to there. But it's like one is definitely a consideration. It's just a shame that the ballistic skill's so bad. It feels rough because you look at like even a cannon or a grudge throwing, like why would I ever take the ballistic skill shooting over this? But
yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah. Cool. Rune of forging, single use, re-roll a single misfire on an artillery dice, and you can have multiple on the same thing. And this is incredible. This is, in my opinion, not only goes on as your single rune on a war machine, it goes on multiple war machines if you've got points because you're like, oh no, I've got to spread them out. The easiest way to kill a dwarf player is having them bunch all of their artillery up on a hill. I love it when they do that. I'm like, cool. my dragons are eating good. I'll send one of the dragons off just to deal with the artillery. You know what Richy doesn't do when you play against him? Put his artillery together. So you can send a dragon to kill that, and then next turn it has to fly towards something else and then charge it on the next turn. And if you have these, then you don't just lose your artillery for free.
Yeah, and you conveniently put them outside of overrun range as well, and
Of
then
course.
you just kind of ruin Flyers' days.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rune of Forging, A tier, 100%. Always don't leave home without it. If I've got my my stone throwers, I think it's amazing. Really, really good.
Yeah, it's solid. I'd say A, like top of A, because I don't think it's like you might not even bother taking artillery, right? And I know that kind of feels a bit sort of but I feel like for an S tier you want it in every list, and sometimes even though you've got the option to take artillery, you just don't bother. So I think
Yeah,
top of A
for sure.
feels pretty good. What about the Rune of Burning? You like this one, right?
Straight grudging. Don't even have to talk about it. Bye.
There's one exception: if you only play against Troll Horde players.
Yeah, fair. I mean, like, if you know that you're going to be playing against the Troll Horde and you're going to tech into him, you're an asshole. The only time, don't do it. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
Like it's even for magical shots, it's expensive because you could just take some of the other ones, which are actually quite good.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of one that's quite good, the Rune of Reloading, 5 points. You can shoot every turn, even if you misfired and malfunctioned during the previous turn, which means the only time a misfire is an actual problem is if you roll a 1 and it blows up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, auto includes 100%. You're gonna take at least one in your army, I think.
You're saying S tier?
Ah,
I feel like I could see A tier, like sort of middle of A tier. I don't know that I'd go up to S tier.
Yeah, no, maybe not S. But yeah, no, it's good. If you can keep the guns going, it's good.
Yeah.
The next one is quite an interesting one as well. Like the +1 combat res from Stalwart Rune. Now, this is one of those things that you kind of put it on just because it's points, and then you forget about it, and then suddenly you win combats. It's a really weird little rune actually. When it doesn't do anything until suddenly, like, oh, I still have a cannon.
This is when you want to take, like, for example, 3 runes of forging. The first one gets the Rune of Reloading. The second one gets the Stalwart Rune, and then you get charged, and you're like, okay, my opponent did 0 wounds to me. I did 0 wounds to them. Oh, I win combat. The harpies are running away. Dwarf artillery, man. For me, this feels like this is a solid B tier. Like I'm always happy to have it, but it's not necessarily affecting the game all that often.
Yeah. Like normally for me, that would probably be like a C, but the fact it is only 5 points as well, and it does make the shooting magic as well.
Yes,
that bumps it up in my opinion.
And just to reiterate how runes work, because you can't take any item that has just the same rune. So you can't take 2 cannons with forging, but you could take a cannon with forging and then with forging and the Stalwart Rune. It's one of the 2 cheap ways to get a good rune duplicated without having to, take something else. So straight into B tier. And that's the end of our War Machines. And not only is it the end of the War Machines, it's the end of the main book ones. We're onto the Arcane Journal, which is we're not doing too bad. We've got a few to flick through, and I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit because it is cropping off with our faces. So if I just go like that, you can see everything, I think.
Yes.
Perfect stuff. All right, do you want to take us away with the Arcane Journal? You ready to go with the runic tattoos?
Yeah, no, 100%. So we've got the Rune of Dishonored, which is 50 points. Now, this is a really, really interesting one. So basically, you get you can deny victory points with this, which is like so good. And you also get a 3-up ward save for your last wound, so you can be really, really infuriating for stuff that's trying to kill you. So you can just challenge out like a dragon, for instance, and as long as you can roll up that 3-up ward, then he isn't going anywhere. And then if the dragon does manage to kill him, it's not worth any points. But you've also got that with some like really nice tech to try and kill that dragon with, say, like a Dragon Slayer. You give him some nice runes on his weapon, and then that's actually quite a scary thing to think about, because that could just keep, if you can roll above a 3, that thing's not going anywhere, right?
I mean, sure. I think when I look at this, I'm taking it purely for the like the points denial aspect of it, and then the 3-up ward save is kind of just nice to have. If you've ever played against like an Archon in 40k, where you get a 2-up save, but as soon as you fail the 2-up save, it goes away. It kind of has that feel. Your opponent is always going to pass that save. If your opponent has this, they will make every 3-up ward save. If you have it, you fail it on the first one. It's 100% that upgrade. So don't take it based on that. but you take it so you can tool up a 200-point character, throw it at the enemy, and go, oh, you killed it because you had to, because it was coming to you, it was going to hit you in the face. Cool. You don't get any victory points for that. Sucks to suck. And then you combo it with the Doom Seekers as well, which have the same rule baked in. I think this is fun. I think this is conditionally something you can build around. I wouldn't. And the fact that it's 50 points doesn't really matter, because the whole point of it is it's points denial. So you're like, oh no, my points denial is more expensive. Oh, what a shame. I think for me, this is like solidly B tier.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can definitely make some like fun lists around it and stuff, but you are relying on dying for the big benefit from it, which is probably never a good thing, right?
Yeah, you're going to get like 1 or 2 matchups at a tournament where your opponent's like, okay, cool, I'm really fast. I do not have to engage with you, and I'm just going to get the points for not killing you, and I'm going to work at chipping away at everything else. So like, if you've got 4, like extreme, if you've got 3 Doom Seekers in this, and that's like 500 points that you're like, I'm going to deny so many points, and then your opponent's playing Wood Elves, and they're just, they're in the goddamn trees. They kill 200 points, they get 500 points for you not dying, and then you're like, oh crap, I lose
No,
by 700 points. This sucks. But yeah, I still like it. I think it's conditional, and if you do want to try and make Slayer Army work, this is right up in there. And just to mention how these work, runic tattoos, they're just runes. They're only available to Slayers, and you can take 3 on Doom Seekers, 2 on Demon Slayers, 1 on Dragon Slayers, which is the hero level version of. But yeah, Rune of Endless Battle, 40 points. You like this one. In combat,
I really do.
If you charged, every attack you make that cause an unsaved wound allows it to make 1 additional attacks. So this is... Does this include impact hits? I don't think
it does include, yes.
Oh, so how does that work? Does that just make, like, if you get an impact hit, you auto... Oh no, here we go. It says, any unsaved wounds caused by any of the impact hits special rule do not benefit from this special rule. So just underneath it says your impact hits don't count.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I was like, wait, but do you roll to hit when you automatically hit? But yeah, this is solid. You just, you combo it with, you were talking about the no armor saves rune. And you just
good. So good.
Yeah. It's...
No,
I feel like this is B tier, right?
Yeah, I think so. There's like a really edge case Doom Seeker that you can build with this, with Aurit Nomad, which is, it just absolutely slams.
Yeah.
Absolutely slams. But it does provide, you need to roll the dice for it, and it does need to go in your favor, but it can do loads of damage.
Do you want to point out the obvious problem with this?
What?
You're a dwarf, and you have to charge to get the benefit.
This is true. But like I said, they've got pseudo Swift Stride, so they're a speedy dwarf. So it's all good.
Yeah, they're a speedy dwarf. That is a correct summary of the statement. But yeah, no, I think as upgrades go, you can make a really fun build with it, and I think you're not necessarily hindering yourself by doing it. So just a shame you can't. Oh no, you can combo it with the Rune of the Dishonored. I mean, you're getting real expensive if you do that. But at that point, you're like, I'm going to run towards you. Either you kill me, or I'm charging you, and I will take out a big chunk of your army. So maybe that's the way to go. You go for like a 300-point Demon Slayer or Dragon Slayer, sorry, something like that. Cool. What about the Rune of the Reckless?
So I actually quite like this. So it's you gain hatred, and you get +1 to hit, and your opponent also gets +1 to hit you as well. But you're just there to be a kamikaze. You get in, do as much damage as possible, and it doesn't really matter if you die, because you kind of want to die. So I really like this, being able to, but yeah, I mean, Frenzy's quite good on these, because you're probably going to want to charge everything you're closest to anyway. So I don't see it as a downside for these chaps.
Yeah. So I do not like Frenzy. I do not like losing control of my units, because it's really easy to Frenzy bait things away. And you know where I really don't like Frenzy? On units that are fast. Because, like, if you've got fast cavalry that have Frenzy, your opponent can really bait you out. Like, if you've got like Wild Riders, for example, with their move 9 and their Swift Strike, you're like, oh god, I'm all over the table. You know where I don't hate it? Where I'm a potato trudging across the battlefield that wants to charge you. If you stand within my range, I'm like, yeah, I'm going for it. And what? Square up, mate. Like, I don't care.
But what else is that dwarf going to do? Like, it's always going to charge, isn't he? Like.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, oh, you want to frenzy bait me, do you? Cool. I went further than my move because I got to make a, not a failed charge, like chase after someone that fled from me. Excellent news. I got way closer than I would have done otherwise, because I got to roll my mini Swift Stride as well. Yeah. So I'm very in favor of this. I'm not putting it in my list, but in terms of the upgrades for the Demon Slayers or what have you, I guess bottom of A.
Maybe go B. Give me a go B.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. As I said, I was like, this feels like it is only frenzy. Oh, it's frenzy plus 1 weapon skill actually, which is nice. But yeah,
But it's not as good as the next one, though, is it?
all
So
right.
the Rune of the Hateful. So you get hatred all enemies. Rerolls are some of the best points investment that you'll ever have in this game because there's not that much access to them. So for me, that's definitely, I would say A for if you, yeah, A,
Yeah,
I
I
think.
agree. Yeah, I really like hatred. It's a solid upgrade, and it's one of those great rules that only applies in the first round of combat, but you don't have to charge for. So even when you get charged because you're a dwarf, you're still slapping and taking names. Of course, this is only for Doom Seekers. There are easier ways to get hatred, like playing good units like Thanes and Kings, but we'll not talk about that. That's we can move on. We can move right on to the Rune of Grit, which is +1 to toughness, and I actually like this because you're base T5 on a Doomseeker, right?
Yeah, so they are actually quite tanky. So it's, yeah,
Tw-
it's decent. I think it's quite,
25 points. I'm putting that straight in the middle of A. You've got a T6 little horror that's running straight at you. You know how hard it is to pick up a T6 model with incidental firepower? It's surprisingly hard.
no, they are only T4. They're T4. So going up to T5 with it.
All right,
So.
I'm going to put that right at the top of B. You know how hard it is to kill a T5 character that's running. That's so sad. I don't know why I thought they were T5. Maybe the one that I've played against had this upgrade already. I was like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
T5, that's pretty good. I've literally only played against one person using Doom Seekers, Demon Slayers, any of the above. But I guess you could put it on the Lord level. The Lord level definitely is T5. But then we're getting quite pricey. And if you're taking this, you're not taking the rune that turns off their scoring. So anyway, T5,
Yeah.
bows will wound you on 6s. That's something, makes it harder for you to deal with. I don't hate it. It's 25 points. What do we got next?
So the Rune of the Dauntless.
Mm.
So basically, you have to issue and accept challenges. And if you do have a challenge, then you can re-roll your failed hit rolls. So basically, you've just got hatred. So you might as well just probably ignore this one unless you're trying to get points, right? Um, the problem is with these, you probably don't want to be in a challenge most of the time because you probably want to like chaff clear, in my opinion. I think the
Yeah.
best, I agree that hatred is better all of the time, I think. Because the best role for Doom Seekers, in my opinion, is to get in the lines, killing stuff that's going to be quick into you rather than characters anyway. And if you get bogged down in a unit champion, you've wasted the Doom Seeker.
What if you went for? So I can actually see a use for this, and this is one of those that I think its stocks go up if we go to if we lose dragons and we go to an infantry meta, because obviously the demon and dragon slayers have hatred, not hatred. Sorry, they've got killing blow. So just getting into a challenge and always rerunning your hits, it's cheaper than having hatred. You can combo this with something else, or if you wanted, you could go really stupid and bunker a character in like a unit of slayers, for example, so it doesn't just immediately die. But you could give it the Master Rune of Smiting for D6 damage, and then give it pseudo hatred for 15 points in a challenge because you're only going to want to fight in a challenge. I think it's not good now, but I could see a world where I maybe want to build around it in the future.
Well, I mean, the only problem, like, you wouldn't be able to put that on like Doom Seekers and stuff because obviously they couldn't take the lot. But I suppose we could. If you were taking Royal Clans, you can get the extra 25 points. So you could
I
take
hadn't
the
even
Rune of
thought of Doom Seeker.
Yeah, so you could take the Rune of Smiting on that then because you
Yeah,
could take 75 points in Royal Clans.
yeah.
So yeah, like I'm maybe a fan of that.
Wait, hold on. No, we're cooking. The way that the impact hits work for the Doomseeker, it applies the weapons modifiers to it, right?
Yes, it does.
All right. Yes. Where does it say that? I'm sure there's a rule.
It's in the FAQ. It's in the newest FAQ.
Amazing. So I'm getting D6 damage impact hits. Let's go. I'm so jazzed about that. That's amazing.
And then you put that with the Rune of Endless Battle. So every D6 damage wound that you do through turns into another one.
Wait, hold on. What's the wording on it? Is it wounds or damage? Because I think it's just the wound, not the damage. But I'd have to check how that interacts. God, that'd be so dumb.
Yeah, it doesn't play the way that you're thinking it does, Ed.
Every attack it makes that causes an unsafe wound. Yeah, so it doesn't, like, if you roll a 6, you don't get 6 more attacks. But even getting like an extra attack that does d6 damage, like I'm liking that. Yeah, that's a no AP on the weapon. It's fine. We're only going to play against Giant Spawn. That's the only monster that's going to be allowed in the new Utopia that the Facebook chats are the comp lists of that are bad.
Yeah, 100%. So next up, we've got the Warrior's Rune. So it's just a +1 modifier to weapon skill. Yeah, whatever.
Oh, Dauntless can go into Rune for improvement. Rune of Wrath, +1 attack, 15 points. I don't hate it. That feels like a bottom of B. It's valuable for what it does. Like if you want to load up your characters cheaply with extra attacks, I don't hate it. It's not the best way to do it, but it's below rate for what you're paying. I think, isn't it 25 points if you put it on a weapon? So you can buff up your weapon and get extra attacks here if you wanted to go down that path. It's fine. It combos. It's the problem is we're sinking loads of points into things that fall over as soon as you look at them. So it's hard to justify the points. But I think if you're doing it, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So what else? We got Warrior's Rune, 10 points, +1 to weapon skill. Don't hate that. You hate that?
Whatever. You're going to give him hatred anyway, right?
Yeah, but it gets the Demon Slayer to 8, so you're hitting on 3s. You've got the Dragon Slayer to 7. That's good. I feel like a Doomslayer is only weapon skill 5. Yeah, so it gets us to 6, which I don't actually really care about.
The problem you got, though, with the Demon Slayers and the Dragon Slayers
is that they're bad and you don't take them.
No, it's not that. It's the fact that on a Dragon Slayer, you can only take a single one of these. You're not going to waste that single one on a 10-point one, are you?
Maybe. Like, if you... No, so hear me out. What if you load up the front rank of a unit of Slayers, because we're in the fantasy land where this is something that we want to do, and you've got multiple of them, and you're just like, okay, so here's one that's going to be... It's weapon skill 7 with a great weapon. And that's cost me, 10 points to get there. So I've got an 84-point character that's weapon skill 7 with 3 attacks with a great weapon. I don't hate that. You know, like if you want
to, you can keep going, but I disagree.
Yeah. So I think Rune for improvement.
Yeah. There we go. That's fine.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually kind of good. It's just like, where do you realistically put it into a list? That's the problem, right?
And then we can just ignore the last one, right?
No, we can't. We've got to read it out.
So the Rune of Blazing Fury, flaming, grudging, right now. Come on.
There we go. So is this better or worse than the Rune of Burning and the Rune of Fire?
I mean, they're all just equally terrible. We should have...
Incorrect. The Rune of Burning that goes on the banner is the worst one because it gives it to the whole unit.
We should get a flaming section, I think. Just an F. There you go.
Flaming. Yeah. I think yeah, we'll put it right at the end because it only goes on Slayers, and Slayers are arguably lower tier characters than the tier characters you actually take in lists.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's the worst version of. Okay, so we'll let you cleanse your palette, and I'm just going to let you go straight. No, in fact, no, I'll take this one. You can take the next one. Master Rune of Slaying. These are the engineer weapon runes. They only go on crossbows or handguns, and obviously you're going to put them on a character with a decent ballistic skill. So Master Rune of Slaying, 50 points. When making a wound roll against an enemy whose troop type is Behemoth, you always wound on a 3+, and you get multiple wounds D3, and that's not if they're Behemoth only. So you always wound, you wound on a 3+ against Behemoths, and you always have D3 damage, and it's 50 points.
What do you think about this?
I think it's crap. I think for 50 points, I'm super underwhelmed.
No, so this is a little bit secret sauce. I actually used this at a recent event.
Okay.
If you combine this with a couple of the other runes, for instance, so if you take the Rune of Accuracy, so you're if you've got this on a Thane, for instance, on a gun Thane, you can do this in Royal Clans because of the points. So you always hit on 3s.
Mm-hmm.
You also combine this with the Rune of Rapid Fire, so you get 2 shots. So you've got 2 shots that always hit on 3s. They always wound gigantic spawns on 3s. I was banging out spawns left, right, and center. So in a meta where people are bringing 2, this guy can comfortably deal with them.
That's 85 points. Oh no, because Thanes can take 75 points natively, can't they? I forget that dwarves get to take more points. Okay, so you in Royal Clans you can take this on a Thane. I mean, that's hold on. So that's 85 points plus how much is it for a Thane? 60. So 145 plus a handgun. Or did you put it on a crossbow because you want the extra? You went handgun because handgun's better.
Yeah.
So 151 points for that. I don't know, Super Chief. That feels a bit rich for my blood.
Nah, if you can bang out a spawner turn, love it.
Yeah. That is a very specific combination that works well. What if you're playing against any of the other, even let's just say core armies, any of the other 7 armies that don't have giant spawn?
So it goes into chariots really well because obviously it's D3 damage all the time.
Sure.
Doesn't go into dragons very well.
Armor save.
But yeah, like they've just said in the chat, like it's very niche. But when you're playing, like I play in lots of tournaments, so I would say at least two out of the 5 games will have 2 gigantic spawns. So it's quite that's important for me, I think.
I want to play against your opponents. I love playing against gigantic spawn. The lists I played like feast on spawn. I rarely get to play against them. I'd say once every 2 tournaments. So we should swap opponents, is what I'm saying. All right, where do you want to put it then?
I think it's very niche, so I think maybe bottom of B. Like it does a good job when it does a good job, but that's like the only thing that it's really good at, I think. Well, actually, you know what? It kills gyrocopters really well as well, actually.
Sure. So in the dwarf matchup, if they're playing X-Force, you've got something. Into Empire, it doesn't really do much. Into Brett's, I guess it threatens Peg Knights.
Yeah. Wounded on 4s, so not too bad.
Wounding on 4s. Okay. Saving on 4s, they only get a 6 up ward save. Okay, yeah, no, you've opened my eyes. I'll give you a bottom of B. That seems super reasonable. Yeah. I'm not putting it in my lists, but I'll give you bottom of B. So then we've got the Master Rune of Piercing, which is +1 strength, and it turns your weapon into a bolt thrower for 40 points. And this is cute.
Yeah, I mean this is also cute when you combine that with a Rune of Rapid Fire, so you can do double bolt thrower in stand and shoot. So that's quite cool.
Yeah. In an infantry meta.
Yeah, 100%. If there was an infantry meta, I could see a world where you take the Rune of Rapid Fire, accuracy, and piercing, but unfortunately we don't have that. So that's a nice little combo that you could run if we go for infantry, but until then, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think top of rune for an improvement. And this is one of those where, like, you look at it and you go, is it that rune that's good, or is it the other 2 runes that we're putting in combination with everything else, which is 2 shots and always hit on ballistic skill, which is like doing all of the heavy lifting, and everything else is like, oh, this is a flavor of that double shot that I can go for. I guess that's fine. So I think right now in this meta, rune for improvement. But if we get, ranked up infantry and I want to stand and shoot and ruin people's day, which I kind of do, then yeah. Although actually, hold on. That's a little difficult because you don't have any weapons with quick shot. I guess you can't even put it on a pistol.
The Rune of Rapid Fire gives you quick shot.
Oh, yes, it does. It does, of course. Yeah, I was like, wait, I'm sure there's something I'm missing here. Okay, cool. Do you want to take the actually good one?
Yeah, so the Master Rune of Bursting Flame. So each successful hit turns into 2d3 hits. So if you've combined that with the getting the 2 shots, so suddenly you get 4d3 shots. So this thing gets a maximum of 12 shots if you roll well. So always hitting on 3s, getting those 12 shots through, strength 4, AP 1, or if you're playing against Wood Elves, I would probably suggest you take the crossbow because then you get the extra range and you don't really need the AP, right? Like you said in chat, skirmishes be gone. It's so good. You can even threaten big gribblies with this actually, just because it's so many shots coming through. And it's such a condensed amount of points as well, and in 360 if you don't have it in a unit. It's just so good. It's amazing. It's so much better than points comparatively for a shooting unit. Yeah, it's quite laughable actually.
Yeah, no, I agree. This has ruined my day. Most of the times you've beat me is because of this bloody gun. I do like playing stupid skirmisher lists, but no, this thing's great. It goes straight to S tier, and I resent it. But it's good. And let me tell you about something that is bad, and I won't hear any words to the contrary. Rune of Concussive Force, 30 points, and a unit hit by an attack made with this weapon gains the stupidity rule until your next starter turn subphase.
There are some absolute heroes that are trying to make this work. Like I see it all over Discord that people are trying to make this work, and oh god, it's so bad.
It really is.
Especially really after the newest FAQ, where if you got stupid, you could move yourself 0.1 inch.
Yeah, you don't have to move at all, right? Or you move as much as you want to. Yeah, no, this is bad. Like, as someone who routinely plays 2 units with stupidity willingly, no, no, this is not the
Yeah.
downside that people seem to think it is. So this is going straight into, it can go into Rune for Improvement because it could do something, but it's yeah. Do you want to just take the next two because they kind of go together?
Yeah, so Rune of Accuracy, you're always going to be hitting on your ballistic skills. So if you've got an Engineer, you're going to be hitting on 2s. If you've got a Thane, you're going to be hitting on 3s. Yep, straight in S tier. And then you've got the Rune of Rapid Fire. So you've got multiple shots 2 and quick shot. The
Yep.
problem with multiple shot is it would normally make you -1 to hit, but then you've got with the Rune of Accuracy, you just ignore that. So them two together, yeah, they're all S tier. Like that Gun Thane will win you games. Like it's so good. You can make a Gun Engineer, which is decent. But the Gun Thane is the best the version that you can take. It's so good.
Yeah.
And I've had this argument with a few people because they're like, but the Engineer hits on 2s natively, so you don't need accuracy.
You do.
The problem is if you're like if you're playing against like the Gutter Cloud, or if you're playing against anything that stacks -1 to hit, even Peg Knights, because what Peg Knights will do is they'll weave into other units of Pegs, making you -1 to hit them, or into Peasants. So you need to be able to hit stuff and just not have to worry about it. Like always hit on 3s. You can just no brain it and just go, I'm definitely going to hit these.
Yeah, it's real good because the things that you want to pick up with this unit are the things that are hard to shoot, basically.
Yeah.
So it's really valuable. These things, like on their own, they're good. Like all of them are good individually, but you combine them and you're just like, this is the best thing that dwarves can bring. And the only reason that you don't see people running multiple of them is because that'd be illegal, because it's the master rune. If you could run like 2 bursting flames and only one of them had like Rune of Accuracy, you'd run 3, right? You'd go like bursting flame accuracy, bursting flame rapid fire, bursting flame accuracy rapid fire. And you'd be like, cool, I've got 5 shots. 3 of them are accurate, 2 of them are less accurate. I don't care. I'm just going to hit you with so many auto hits.
Oh yeah, you just would. You just would. Like every character is basically a really well hitting organ gun. It'd be sick.
That's disgusting. And then I guess I'll round out with the molten Rune of Molten Steel. I've moved away from it because I wanted to check whether you could take the engineers in the Royal Clan, which you can't. But for 10 points, you can give the weapon flaming attacks. So this is worse than all of the other ones because it's for some reason 10 points instead of 5.
Great. That's awesome.
That
goes in F tier. Straight in F tier. Go. Bye.
Yeah. Unbelievably bad. And then for 5 points, Enchanted Rune, you get magical attacks. That's fine. Sometimes you want magical attacks. Like if you had 5 points spare and you wanted to give something magical attacks because you're really worried about the Green Knight, sure. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It has Rune for Improvement, but yeah.
The thing is, though, if you've got 5 points, you're just going to put the Rune of Passage or the Rune of Furnace on.
What if you've got both of those already?
Then you put the point somewhere else.
You take those 10 points off and you put a 15-point infantry model into your list. Something like that. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Is there anything that we need to tweak around? How are we feeling about this? I need to...
I'm pretty happy about that. I think all of S tier... Sorry about that, mate. I think all of S tier is exactly where I want it. Those are all runes that you 100% are going to take in every single list.
Yeah.
Or different variants of each of their list. I think A is decent. The reason I'm going to explain why I think Rune of Forging is right where it is because if you're playing a Royal Clans list and you can't get engineers, then you need the Rune of Forging. So I think it's perfect where it is. But yeah, no, I'm really happy with that, mate. I think that's really good.
Spot on. Yeah, no, I think that's about right. And yeah, do you want to, obviously you've got a channel yourself. Do you want to plug your channel while you're here? Seems rude not to.
Yeah, so basically, if you want to see any more dwarf content, come over to Dowie After Dark, which is a dwarf-centric channel, which is just me, just splurging about dwarves constantly and showing. Well, I don't do battle reports yet, but they will be coming. But I do tournament reports and basically how-to guides, how to play the dwarves. I am going to be, I'm working on currently a how to play old world, just loads of videos, but unfortunately. That's actually a lot of work and it's taken me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So that might be a little bit longer to get out than I previously anticipated. But I do quite a lot of how to play guides and I do get on some of the best players to talk about their factions. So yeah, if you want to come over to Dowie After Dark and come and have a look.
Fantastic stuff. Yes, I'm also doing tactical stuff, and I've also not got it out yet because it is also a right pain in the backside to film. So it's we'll both have some of those videos coming out at some point in the next year, I'm sure. But yeah, lovely stuff. All right, spot on. Well,